a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right, we are live at Porcfest. What's going on, guys?
Hello, hello.
Hey.
All came together. We're actually doing pretty well here because we're running off a neighbor's Starlink.
Nice.
We'll have him up soon. Actually, he wants to talk to the Monero community. He's got an interesting concept, an interesting idea he's pitching me. So many amazing conversations being had here. It's rainy here today in Lancaster, New Hampshire. Actually, it was rainy yesterday as well. It was super hot when we showed up. It was like New York heat wave, and then the rains rolled in. But yesterday actually was just cloudy most of the day, and it didn't rain till the evening, so it ended up not being too bad. And today, I think the rains have finally stopped, but everybody's out here chilling. We definitely, I would say, accomplished our mission of spreading Monero and creating our Monero map. Actually, Linus, you want to grab that real quick? So I want to show you guys the Monero map that we've been putting together as we've been going from stand to stand. Basically, everybody out here accepts Monero. And those that don't, if you talk to them about it, you can onboard them on the spot. So that's just kind of as far as we were able to get. This is like that area is like the Agora area, and pretty much all the people we talked to were willing to accept Monero, which is very cool. Or already were accepting it, and if they weren't, we gave them pamphlets and we gave them Monero accepted here stickers, and we made a first transaction with. I bought so many things at Porcfest. I bought many things. I bought gemstones. I bought obviously every meal that I've eaten. I purchased here. Endless amount of things, which is great. So you can 100% live off of Monero here at Porcfest, which is really cool. Why am I the only one on stage? What happened to everybody else here? Tux, are you there?
I'm here.
I am here.
Okay.
Solo layout.
Yeah, I think we just.
All right, come on, guys, give me some backup over here. Jesus Christ. So yeah, any response to any of that?
What's the amount of what you could say? So everybody pretty much accepts Monero. Is it the same for goldbacks? I imagine it would be because goldbacks is
same for goldbacks. I'd say goldbacks is the most widely accepted thing here. Monero is I would say like a second or third. Obviously, everybody ends up accepting cash. People aren't really don't actually say no to cash. Maybe you have some people that do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, goldbacks is number one. Although Porcfest is so vast that we started venturing further out. I mean, it's a pretty big campground. We got to the one guy that I bought the gemstones off of. It was I bought a thing of quartz from him. He not only did he not hear Monero, he hadn't heard of goldbacks yet. The guy was so out far in Porcfest land that he hadn't yet heard about the goldback. He's like, wow, I didn't even know about that. I was like, wow, how's that possible for Porcfest? But we onboarded him to goldbacks and Monero. And he was in. But yeah, no, I would say pretty much anybody is willing if they're not already accepting Monero, and most people have heard about it at this point. But a lot of people really don't know. They know there's a lot of a lot of FUD that goes around. So I think we've been a good job at clearing that up. We have a really effective pamphlet that breaks everything down and gives people good resources. So I think it's been very productive in terms of getting the word out on Monero. Monero just it's very welcomed here. It's
I mean,
an
is
easy
Monero like
it's an
the
easy
main
crowd to sell.
accepted one, or is it like Bitcoin and Monero, or is it
Yeah, I was gonna say,
No,
I'm
Bitcoin.
sure everyone's accepting Lightning Network, right?
Yeah, Bitcoin is like Bitcoin's not really like
cool?
that cool here. Porcfest. People don't like that it's not good digital cash. You know, even just the transact. You know, the fact that you can't transact on chain. So I mean, something like people might use like something like Dash sooner than they would use Bitcoin. But yeah, no, it's booming. I think Porcfest, from what I'm being told, is a lot more calm this year than last year, which I believe, because last year you had Vivek Ramaswamy here, you had RFK Jr. But I was at MoneroKon last year, but I think that it made it much larger. So this year is a little more calm, and then with the weather. But if you're willing to walk around, I mean, there's a bunch of great people here, and it just takes forever when you walk around and try to onboard people. Even if you're talking to people that already accept it, each conversation turns into like an hour-long conversation, just because it's good people, smart people, people that you obviously have things in common with. So every conversation is like an hour-long conversation. But yeah, let me. I guess.
How did the panels that you were on go? You also were on some panels.
Yeah, the panels were good. I was on a panel with Aaron Day, and I forget the other gentleman's name, but he was representing. Actually, they thought he was representing Zcash, but he ended up being a DarkFi guy. And we just talked about privacy coin tech. So it was good. It was good because I got the people in the audience were, just general Porcfest people that didn't really know a lot of info about Monero and privacy coins. So it was very effective. Yeah, there was probably 30 people in there, and it was a good conversation. Early in the morning, it was like 9 a.m. I was like, all right, guys. But it was very relaxed. Actually, their studio was awesome. They had like nice sofa.
Yeah, I saw. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was good. And then after this, I'm gonna jump on another show. So we'll get the word out there. And then actually, Linus is telling me he's got somebody, some like gold guys who's going live, who has like a lot of followers. Maybe I'll jump on there. So people are very open to having the Monero conversation here at Porcfest. I would say more so than ever.
Awesome.
But let me bring on our first guest here. If you guys want to run the guest segment.
All right. Yep, let's do it.
Yeah. And then we could go to
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right. Good morning, sir. How's it going?
Good. I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Very good. Very good. Thanks to you, actually, because of your internet, your Starlink, man, hooking everybody up. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help out. Anything I can do to help you guys spread the message.
You want to quickly intro yourself as I readjust my seat over here?
Yeah. So my name is Brandon Navom. I am a co-founder of Rave Me Away. You can find us at ravemeaway.com. And if you are really good at scanning QR codes, just do that. So what we do is we're making health and safety better at live events. Our company was founded when our founder went to Astro World in 2019, where during a Travis Scott performance, 10 people were crushed to death. He said, "This is ridiculous. We need to stop this. We live in present times where I can do everything digitally. Why can't we improve health and safety?" So we have a simple roadmap for tools. Phase 1 is a mobile app you can download and call for help at live events, any live event that we're at, and you'll get a GPS location will be sent to medical or security, and they'll be able to respond with your exact location. I just had right across the street, someone was camping who said they had an emergency at a rave last year, and it took them over an hour to get with no medical attention, and they ended up having to carry the person and carry them across barriers as they were evacuating the event in order for them to be able to get medical attention. So why is it taking over an hour to get medical attention when, you know, I can be fishing and I can get a pizza delivered to my phone, you know, on my phone, delivered to me at the side of a lake, yet we're having problems finding people in the most critical time.
How does the tech work? What is the tech behind all this?
Yeah, you know, here's the great part. It's really simple. You know, it's right now our phase 1 is just an app, and we just come in, we all we have to do is set up the security and the medical with the app, and you know, just like pinging somebody, calling for an Uber, right? You can call for medical when you need it most. Now, our phase 2 implementation is actually a Bluetooth wearable. This is something that a lot of live events are actually starting to go to this, but nobody has even thought about doing it for health and safety. So they're more concerned about putting your tickets on a wristband than they are incorporating features that could save your life. And so what we say is, let's invert that, right? Let's focus on helping the people when they need it, and then let's add on your ability to do your ticketing, your ability to do point of sales. So our hope is that very soon with Rave Me Away, you'll be able to have your ticket on a wearable, be able to make all of your in-event purchases with the wearable, and be able to, you know, have that wearable save your life should something like an overdose or a crush event occur to you. And you know, it just makes sense. And then at that point in time, when we're integrated with all the POS systems, we'd love to backdoor cryptocurrency in and be able to you know, start making all of these sales on using crypto. So you know, I think the biggest problem that if you talk to noobs, who just your average person, they say, well, what can I buy with crypto, right? That is probably the biggest problem that, you know, Monero and the larger crypto community has to solve if they want this to be universal and fight against fiat currency and fight against, you know, controlled money. We have to free our money, and we have to do it by making it easy and practical for everyone. And so having something on your wrist that would allow you to transact in crypto will, you know, kind of revolutionize the crypto world, in my opinion.
I don't know. The Monero people may not like the idea of wearing a device that tracks and traces them at events. I don't know. I don't know if the crossover is there.
You know, I think Monero is perfect, right? Because we can find a way to do it securely, right? And if more or less, if the only thing you're ever going to have is like a bunch of ones and zeros in your bunker, it kind of has less utility than if we find a way to do things securely. You know, coming in initially, we sponsored Porcfest here, and initially we got a little pushback by, you know, those few complainatarians who are like, are you really feds, and are you, you know, gonna steal my data and stuff? But actually most of the community has been overwhelmingly positive, and not only have they been supportive, they've loved what we're doing, they really see that this is something that could save lives. They've also given us a lot of feedback on, well, how can we then get this data and store it in secure manners where, you know, we wouldn't have to be forced to comply with any subpoenas or anything like that. And, you know, including, you know, we could do composite keys where users hold the other half of the key. And so then everything just gets stored, you know, cryptographically, and we don't even have access to it, right? There are people who have had so many really great ideas. I never, like, somebody, I was doing another podcast and the guy said, hey, why aren't you, marketing this to like Spartan races and things? And I'm like, oh, that's a perfect like market. So there's so many places we could go with this that, Disney World, cruises, right? This has such, a great potential, and the live events market is so huge. And it's actually really needed because we have these, like the Travis Scott event. We need to improve health and safety. We need to get better about figuring out how we can help people who are overdosing. And it actually is such a no-brainer that it pays for itself, right? I think people need to understand, if you don't know what the product is, you're the product, right? And we serve our customers, but where we monetize is we can go to events and say, hey, if you use our system, you can get lower insurance premiums because you've created, you have a system that minimizes the chances of, having a lawsuit, so that makes them more secure, lower premiums, and it pays for ourselves.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously the idea is, I don't think it's even a revolutionary concept, right? People have thought of these concepts for a while, since the tech existed. But yeah, it needs to be done in a way where it is privacy preserving and data preserving. I mean, so like even at Porcfest, let's say everybody at Porcfest was using this, right? And great, it's theory. In theory, it's great, right? I know where my child is at any time and whatnot, but you're also now created a little mini surveillance system of Porcfest, where where certain people are at certain times, who's talking to who. There's a lot of like data there that people may now want to be out there. So it would have to be built in kind of a zero knowledge proof way, where you're not associate, and you're accomplishing your mission without effectively becoming a little mini surveillance system at events.
Yeah. All right, now we're getting into the good stuff. Zero knowledge proofs. All right, let's talk nerd here. So I think this is something that Monero, completely separate from us, should be doing and implementing is, well, can we have ways to have micro communities and micro transactions within something like Porcfest, where perhaps if it's a person-to-person transaction, can we do something to mask that data? Because one of the problems that we're also solving is, an emergency can be as little as, I can't find someone in my party because I have bad comms, right? We've all been to an event where like cell service breaks down. You can't get a hold of the people in your group. It's horrible, right? So at certain events, part of having an app functioning is having connectivity with people. So not only can I see on a map, one simple map, all of the security, the medical, if I need it, where anything I would need is, I can also see the people in my group, and we're adding functionality where I can chat with them. So places like Monero, where, large people will bring in servers and have our own mini network. And so with that, could we do something with the Monero community where we're kind of bundling transactions for that whole event and actually adding another anonymized layer to those transactions? That would be something that I would really look into, and it would actually make Monero more secure, right? Because everything would just be everything coming out of that node would be even more anonymized, because you would only be able to see from the outside the bundled transactions.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. I don't know. I have to think about that. I don't know about that. I don't think about that. I don't think so. I don't know. Anybody listening in over here? Tux, are you listening in on this convo? Or Bawdy? Hello.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Just curious if you guys have any feedback input on what he's laying down over here with regards to this Rave Me Away system.
I mean, it's interesting. But yeah, I can see there definitely being privacy concerns of needing to do something like that completely, like, very privately.
Yeah.
I'd be curious about like the details of how it's like being used, the device.
Right, how the data is being used. Yeah. No. So obviously the same feedback, right? The privacy concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd love to. We've said everything from come look at our code. Doing hackathons here at Porcfest. We have a long-term commitment with Porcfest. We're kind of pioneering everything we do. So maybe like next year we'll come up with some prototypes of like Bluetooth wearables and see if we can get some volunteers to like mosh in a mosh pit and see what kind of data we can get off of it, right? And so this kind of puts it out there to let us make sure we're doing everything we can in a completely secure manner. And again, that includes maybe we encrypt the data and we put everything into, we have a composite key where the user holds half of that key, and so we can't get the data because we can't unlock it, right? I don't want to hold your data. I want to make you safer. And I think that's kind of what our mission is, because that's where we make our money, is making you guys safer. And I hope that addresses that with the community, because I've had some in-depth talk with a lot of blockchain developers here, a lot of people who are enthusiasts of crypto of all type, and it's been overwhelmingly supportive.
All right. Yeah.
Wearables would be connected to your cell phone.
Bawdy's saying he's assuming that these wearables are connected to your phone, your smartphone.
Yeah. So there's two ways it can be done, right? You can tether off of your smartphone, which has some benefits and some drawbacks depending upon whether or not there's good connectivity at the event. And you can actually do Bluetooth gateways, so then you wouldn't need any kind of phone. And we think there's utility there for, let's say, events that have like maybe teenagers who are kind of a child tracker thing, which is a horrible name. We'd never use that, but something where you can put a wristband on a kid who doesn't have a cell phone, and you'd be able to track them. So there's pros and cons to both ways. I think the market will kind of bear that out. As far as, are people willing to, there are certain events right now where you can't get in unless you have a Bluetooth wristband for your on you. So it's really what the market's willing to adopt, and we're really willing to go both ways as far as that goes, and including maybe have some high-end wearables that would have all sorts of fancy crypto wallets, and would get you'd have to get into VIP parties and that sort of thing at these events. So there's all sorts of ways you can use that human factors to be able to get adoption in a lot of these things. I remember when Bitcoin first came to Porcfest, and they would have parties that you could only get into with Bitcoin, right? And that exclusivity. And so there's all sorts of stuff we can do, especially at events like this with Porcfest, saying if you got to download our app if you want to use our internet, right? Those sorts of things will really drive adoption.
All right, man. Well, you definitely got us on the internet thing.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's how I got on this thing, right? And I'm always a big thinker, and I'm always saying, well, what could we do that's really, really revolutionary? And I'm kind of just spitballing here, but if the Monero community wants to do something revolutionary, here's what it is. the biggest complaint I get from the average person says, what can I buy with this? What part of my average everyday life can I use crypto for? And if we want to solve that problem, we will create a currency that is more ubiquitous than the US dollar. And if you guys want to solve that problem, here's how you do it. And the great part about this is it won't cost you money, it will make you money. So we're currently looking for our first round of seed funding. We've filled out our friends and family round, and we're on to our first round. We're looking to get we're looking to get 1.5 million in funding, and we will accept up to 50% in crypto. If the community wants to do something radical, how about actually funding startups that are going to go out and then push their crypto and actually make it usable and come up with things like wearables that will make it so you could use Monero, you could buy an event ticket, you could use the purchase anything in that event, and you could, we could perhaps have Monero only VIP parties, right? And this is something that just the press releases alone of saying Monero is actually funding startups to improve the ability to the ubiquity of Monero would get just an amazing amount of headlines. We're going to each one of these events individually. We're selling Rave Me Away. We're getting people to adopt it through things like glow stick wristbands and internet. And at the same time, how amazing would it be to have a funded by Monero banners behind all the Rave Me Away banners, and really, really kind of push in a high visibility way Monero to be a premier crypto.
Why Monero though? Why not Dogecoin, or why do you want our money?
Funded by Doge, huh? I think it just works out perfectly, right? Because we're pushing the fact that we're valuing privacy, right? And to those few people who are kind of complainatarians who have complained about this, after I've explained this to them, they've really kind of changed their tune and agreed with me. And I say, if you want security, stop complaining about all of the things that are eroding your security and freedoms, and start actually supporting people who are making alternatives, right? Because someone's going to do this, right? Wristbands, cashless systems at live events, it's coming. Rave Me Away or not, it's going to eventually be here. If you want to make a difference, support somebody who from the get-go says, we're going to do this in a secure manner, because if not, someone who doesn't give a damn about your privacy is going to figure this out, and they're going to do it. And there are going to be parents who are going to have to choose between losing their privacy and security and making sure their kid comes home after a live event, which is a choice that no one should ever have to make.
All right, yeah. Now you're piquing our interest, and I think if it was, is it like open source tech? Is it
Yeah. So right now we're not quite open source because we don't want anyone to just steal our code and run with it. A Live Nation or somebody could easily come in and swamp us up. But what I would say is, if anyone's interested in funding us, if anyone's interested in helping us out, if anybody wants to start a community to help us integrate with Monero, just go to ravemeaway.com, and in our contact page, just send us a quick message. We'd love to hear from you, and especially if you want to fund us or help us. And we, with an NDA, will show you open kimono. And we're looking to maybe every year come back and bad security companies try to hide their security flaws. Good security companies pay people to find their security flaws. So we're looking to maybe come back and have a bounty program where if you can find a vulnerability in our system next year, we'll pay you in silver or Monero. That would be interesting, to have a bounty program where you get paid in Monero. To be able to find our security vulnerabilities and help us patch them. So that would be a really interesting partnership.
All right, man. Thank you so much. We'll leave it at that. I think, I'm trying to absorb it all, but yeah, we'll see if anybody reaches out. You could, like I said, you could always do a Kuno. I don't know what kind of response you're going to get overall, but maybe if you could somehow, tie in proven privacy and security into your technology, and it's presented in an open source way where people can vet it, maybe there would be some interest and overlap there. Obviously, the use case of being able to go into an event and have a band on your arm that you're seamlessly paying Monero with, that in and of itself would be amazing if it's done in a way where you're not being geolocated at the same time or whatever, and it's just now you're essentially anonymously purchasing things at an event as if you were just using cash, but you're using Monero seamless. Obviously, anybody in the Monero community would be on board with that 110%, but tied into it is this rave me away concept, which on the one hand is great in theory, right? Like we're adding security to events. We're, getting rid of any possible threat to life for certain things, but that's coming with the potential sacrifice of privacy, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess the determination has to be whether or not that the pros outweigh the cons there. And in the eyes of the Monero community, I don't know, I don't know how most people would take it overall as a project, but it could evolve into something that perhaps does align quite well. But the transactional aspects in and of itself, that would be obviously amazing and accepted.
Just do what the internet does, bitch and moan on the internet. So find us on all the social medias, post us on any groups you have and say what we're trying to do. Post a link to this so they can see our message and tell us the complaints, and if we can address those issues for you, you'll have a good product and maybe you'll want to fund us. So we're willing to do whatever it takes to show the Monero community that this is a match made in heaven, and this is something we can do for the right innovative people, and hopefully you guys will take advantage of it.
Awesome, man.
All right.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. All right. You guys hear me on your end?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Yeah. I don't know if the alignment's there with the Monero community, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Am I misinterpreting things? I mean, obviously, like I said, the idea of being able to seamlessly transact at vendor stalls at a large event, I don't think anybody would dislike that concept if it could be done in a privacy preserving way. But the tie-in with the other tech, I don't know. I guess it would all come down to what the tech actually is.
Necessary.
Yeah.
And I'm not a rave person, so I can't.
Yeah, hard to. Yeah.
Really useful anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's we speak to so many people here at Porcfest. It's amazing the different ideas that get discussed here. Runs the gamut. But if you want to take away, do price report, and in the meantime, I'm gonna make myself an espresso over here.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, we can roll the intro if you want. I know local Monero isn't exactly operational, but
yeah, no, roll it anyway. We're getting a replacement for that.
Yep. All right.
But we'll
Let's do it.
Continue to.
And now for the Monerotopia Price Report segment.
Okay. I'm not
Are
sure.
they all right?
Canceled now. Let's try again.
And now for the Monerotopia Price Report segment.
Okay, there it was.
All right.
Awesome. The graphic really is pretty cool. Kudos to whoever made it. All right, so this is the Monero chart, obviously. Hopefully this should be a familiar chart for everyone at this point. As we talked about for the past couple weeks, we ended up with a little bit of resistance at places that seemed kind of obvious, right? So these were kind of long-term standard deviation bands, and these guys as well. I say long-term, it's more like they've been developing for the past few years. They're not the longest term standard deviation bands, which are the ones up here. But yeah, we found a little bit of resistance there, and currently I think we're experiencing some of the effects of the general crypto market having a little bit of trouble. When we look at Bitcoin price a little bit later, you'll see what I'm talking about. But overall, it's, everything still looks pretty good. Everything still looks nice. The Bitcoin versus Monero chart has found also a little bit of resistance. So for a while, Monero was kind of outperforming the rest of the market. We had diverged just a little bit from the rest of the market in terms of the overall price performance, right? We were going up. Everyone else was kind of flat topped or pegged out. So these long-term standard deviation bands, these are lower standard deviation bands, obviously, the orange bands. So this is kind of the first place you would expect to maybe find some resistance, and that's basically where we found it. In reality, I have very often seen charts. I've seen charts that will break down, come to these lower standard deviation bands that you can see are already kind of starting to curl under. And typically you'll tag them and then come back down. So it wouldn't be too surprising if we were to see the Bitcoin versus Monero ratio take a break here, take a pullback. Maybe it could just like sort of hang out here for a little bit. I feel like if we think that there's going to be more gains in the crypto market, that it's that same story as we get with gold, where they'll do the pressure release valve. The price sometimes has to come up. There really is organic demand there. But then once they go on the next leverage, hype cycle, printing cycle, they don't pump that into gold. They pump it into the other, we'll just call them shitcoins in this case. I don't want to call you guys shitcoins, but most of you are. What are you gonna do about it? So yeah, we're kind of looking at a situation here where the hype that we had for a while, the nice big strong up movement that we had for a while, does seem like it needs to take a break. We can even see that a little bit in the Z-scores here, Monero being in red. So this is, again, these are Z-scores. So this is how is the asset performing relative to its own moving average over the past 100 days. We could look at 300 days or any timeline, but I like the 100-day chart. A nice balance between the short term and the long term. We had talked about last week saying that, yeah, we're kind of getting a little bit high on these Z-scores. And I think that we might need some pause here. And we said that by sort of looking backwards across the places that Monero had been previously. So if we look back here in 2023, that was January, we're kind of like at those same levels. One thing that's interesting about Z-scores is that we haven't really pulled back too badly on price, but you'll notice the Z-scores have come back significantly. If price were to just remain flat, like let's suppose we pumped at $200 today, and then we stayed exactly at $200 for the next 4 weeks, you would actually see the Z-scores come up. And then even though the price would be the same, the Z-scores would actually drop back until they leveled off at the moving average, which in this case is represented by 0. So it's an interesting way of looking at the charts rather than looking at the absolute moving average. You sort of center the moving average as the 0 point, and then you see how the price is oscillating around that. So it's an interesting way of looking at prices. I recommend people use it. I don't think I've actually published this script. Maybe I'm going to make a note right here. Publish Z-scores, because maybe some people want to use it. Okay, so going back to Monero, we could look at the divergences. Poloniex somehow has managed to find it in their hearts to list Monero at a slightly higher price than Kraken, almost 0.5% higher. So I don't know who paid off Justin Sun, but whichever one of you that did it in the Monero community, thank you, tip of the hat to you. Obviously, that's a joke. So, please, Justin Sun, don't come at me, bro. Don't come at me. Okay, we're looking at the same story here with the XMR versus Ethereum chart. I don't like that we didn't actually get to this area right here. That's that's not great action. That's not really how it's supposed to be. At the same time, there's nothing saying that this doesn't have to just be a pullback before Monero comes a little bit more to the upside. So there's nothing here that's saying like, hey, the show's over. This pump is done, and now we're stuck back in our. I am not saying that, hey, now we're stuck back in our range here that we've been for the past few years. But like we said, there's the potential that we need some kind of pause moment here. These were obvious levels to expect some kind of resistance, and it does look like we're getting ever so slightly pullback, but that's only looks like to the tune of about 12% here so far. So nothing terribly concerning. Maybe the Monero Gold chart is worth taking a look at. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. So we basically came from the very bottom of the XMR versus gold chart from these standard deviation bands. All the way up, a little bit of resistance there, nothing major. This chart is kind of dirty, and this is one thing that there are some charts that do wave magic quite well, others don't. This is one chart that is, in some sense, like the very long-term bands here seem to be functioning quite well, but you'll notice these moving average bands, the white bands, they're all just kind of all over the place. And to me, this is kind of a function of a lot of the price fuckery that they've done over the course of years. And it just dirties up the wave magic, which is interesting because I rarely see wave magic charts that aren't usually have pretty well-defined lines. In the case of Monero, I had noticed that there just seems to be this kind of noise that happens in these charts that I rarely see elsewhere. So I felt like that was it was like one of those things where I said, yeah, we know that they've been messing with the price and their fractional reserve for the longest time. And we know they love to sort of disrupt the price. So it would kind of make sense that you might see that reflected in a chart that feels a little bit more schizophrenic from a standard deviation standpoint. Okay, but anyways, from the thing that stands out to me here in this chart is that we came up to some point here, basically in between these two, right, the shorter term standard deviations, and right now we're sort of testing this area right here. So yeah, okay, Monero versus gold, interesting chart. I think both assets that we like to hold. So the Monero transactions have actually taken a little bit of a pullback here in the past, let's just say week or so. We were sort of in between 30 and 40,000. Okay, a little dip right there temporarily, but we came down and took another dip here, and we've sort of been below 30,000 for a while. Actually tagged the 20,000 level. So yeah, it seems like there's some usage dropping off, which is interesting. Maybe you'd think that Porcfest would encourage more usage. Perhaps it's just not large enough to really account for 5,000-10,000 transactions in a day. I don't know, but that's what the chart looks like. We're going to take a look here at the XMR nodes if it loads. Yeah, so we seem to still be pretty flat, 22,000. We seem to have been at 22,000 nodes for quite a long time now. So nothing really changed here with this chart. Let's take a look at the broader crypto markets. And the big story here was that the SEC informed, I believe it was consensus, but they issued a formal letter saying that they dropped their investigation against Ethereum. So, which kind of makes sense, right? They approved the ETF, and then actually Gensler told the Senate that the ETF should be finished by the end of the summer. So maybe longest time frame before September, but maybe even as soon as July. He wasn't specific with the time frame, but he said everything's moving along smoothly, and to expect the approval. So that there's a good chance that will drive the so right here's the Bitcoin chart. There's a good chance that will drive the end of this current chart pattern, right? So you kind of got this like capping line here at this point, right? We come up to here, still not really able to make higher highs. Things are just kind of bleeding off here. Maybe they'll continue bleeding off. Hell, for all we know, we'll see something like that, and then come back here, right? That kind of deal. That's the kind of thing that you'd expect in crypto markets at this point. There really is still a lot of price fuckery that happens overall in general. Clearing the shorts, clearing the longs, clearing the shorts again, clearing the longs again, and then finally moving to the upside. Just trying to wick people out of their leveraged positions, which is why it's so dangerous to trade leverage. Like especially anything that's above the 3-4x level. You start trading 5-10x leverage, you really are just asking to get wiped out. And in a lot of ways, I think that a lot of the volatility that we see in crypto is specifically driven by traders, where the big market makers can just go in there and just wipe out your positions repeatedly, right? Wreck the longs, wreck the shorts, BART to the upside, BART to the downside before the final move, the real move, is actually made. So, yeah, I do think that there's a good chance that this ETF approval is going to see a little bit of extra cash flow into the markets. It's not going to be as amazingly bullish as the Bitcoin ETF was, obviously, but I think that should give us a reasonable input. I say us, but am I included? I guess I'm kind of a degenerate gambler sometimes, so maybe I'll say us. But that should give us an opportunity for the Bitcoin chart here to break through these resistances and perhaps make it to something. Who knows? Maybe it could actually make 100K Christmas finally, or maybe not. Right? Who knows? So we could take a look then at the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart, since the spotlight's kind of shifting over to Ethereum, as we have talked about at length here in previous episodes. And one thing that I think this is a bullish chart. So one thing you'll notice again is you've got these lower standard deviation bands. The chart, kind of like establishes finally some bottom, maybe washes out. I do think that I think it's very plausible that the Ethereum sort of investigation and some of the negative news against Ethereum and the promotion of this narrative that only Bitcoin will get an ETF and Ethereum is a security, so it will never get an ETF. I think a lot of that was sort of promulgated, if you will, as a means of allowing market makers to sort of stack up their bags as people were panic selling. Right now, you come to the upside here, right? You come all the way from the downside, catch these. I don't know if you can see them, but this white banded area, these are very long-term moving averages. So those were like very, very large supports. These bands are a little bit shorter term bands, the orange bands. So anyways, you come from the bottom there, you come to the very top where these orange bands end. And then also sort of where these like very short-term blue bands, like it's all like a nice convergence in combination with the pleb line. So it's like you hit those levels and you say, okay, that's a place to wait, right? That's a place to expect a little bit of resistance, which is what's happened here. But now what you see is a pullback, kind of stopping in the middle of that range and then immediately trying to press up against these bands again. So yeah, any breaking of this line here, any action that looks anything like that starts to look really bullish. So what I'm getting at is that the Ethereum Bitcoin chart is really actually looking like it's getting close to the point that it's going to break out. So if you're the kind of person that likes to trade the ratios, you can do things like get on some leverage platform. You can short Bitcoin and long Ethereum so that you have kind of a zero risk exposure to the crypto market overall going up or down. But your exposure is to, if Ethereum goes up, then and Bitcoin goes up, you should still make some kind of profit, or at least break even. But anyways, this chart is getting ready to break out. What it looks like to me. But enough about Ethereum. This is not the Ethereum show. Neither is it the Bitcoin show, but we have to look at everything in context. Dominance here on the Bitcoin chart. This thing is, to me, it looks like it's also ready to kind of start breaking down. It doesn't have to happen immediately, but this is getting long in the tooth, if you ask me. So we can take a look at the macro in that case. Let's see where to start. Maybe we won't start with the normie macro stuff. What we'll do here is come to. This is what I'm looking at. Okay, this is the unemployment rate in white, and then the stock market, the S&P specifically, is in the candles. And one thing that we've seen here that I don't like, that's not a good sign, is that the unemployment rate has already started to rise. Now it's coming from very low levels, 3.4%. And now it's up to 4%, but that's a significant rise that's happened, and it's now consistent. Like we can call this a confirmed trend. Unemployment is now actually rising. 4% is still like historically low, but I just want to show you guys throughout the past 2 decades, the 2008 event, you saw unemployment come down, hit a bottom, and then start spiking up. And these blue thingies right here, the I don't know, the price distance and time, that's just a copy of this right here. So I'm just overlaying what's happened for the current situation on previous situations. And really, it's just here to kind of give you a visual reference for before the 2008 crash really happened in earnest, you had already seen a significant rise in the unemployment rate. Same thing with the crash, the .com crash of 2000. You had already seen unemployment coming up. Now, the big difference here is that the stock market had already started coming down as the unemployment was rising. In both of these instances. So you might say, okay, well, that's not quite the same thing here because the stock market just continues to put on new all-time highs. But it is one of those little things that we're looking at. We're saying, hey, we're looking at these, we're looking at this very long-term yield curve inversion. We're looking at this flat top on the federal funds rate, which is in the white line here. And the Fed is talking about lowering rates. But every time the Fed has lowered rates for the past 2 decades, that has signaled the beginning of the end, right? That doesn't mean that the gains are totally over. But the Fed lowering rates and the bond market starting to come down, in some cases violently, and the correction of the yield curve for the past 20 years has been associated with a kind of tail risk event where the market crashes 30%, 40%, 50%. So we're seeing all this. And if you're on Twitter, if you're on the social medias, if you follow any of the influencers, the price influencers, you'll see that these guys are talking about this, and they've been talking about it for a year. And last year, we were trying to be a bit careful. I was saying, hey, maybe August, and then that ended up being wrong. I kind of had to pivot my thesis quickly as price proved me wrong. And you have to be agile because you're going to be wrong sometimes in markets. And then so after, like, say October, my personal kind of narrative was it's up, like the direction's up. Like, I'm not necessarily going to buy these levels. That's why I got in earlier. But we've just been looking at the directions up for a while. And as we talked about maybe in the past week or so, the tail risk still isn't acute. There is no acute tail risk in these markets. We're not seeing anything that's just majorly concerning that tells us, hey, the red flags are flying, right? The warning signals are flashing. We're not seeing that. So especially when it comes to the stock market, the name of the game is you always stay in the stock market unless you just like have some crystal ball that tells you that you're in tail risk. I think that we do have finally now, after watching this for so long, I think that we do have good mechanisms to see when that's happening. But that's why you continue to see the stock market go up, because people just don't want to get out of the stock market unless there's just terrible, terrible signs out there, which we don't see. So this chart right here is the dollar index. We're kind of like flirting here back in these upper standard deviation bands. I really do think that it makes sense to me. This thing is going to continue up to get to here. I was thinking that we would get to this level here, these upper blue bands. I was thinking we would get there sooner rather than later. But we took a pullback here, and so now we're kind of in this position where I still think that it makes sense to get up to this level here. So the question is that level going to be a capping spot? And I think the dollar index tends to move slow enough that we would probably see that. Like if the dollar index is going to bust to the upside, what we might see is something like this, right? It's going to consolidate at these levels, and then if that happens, that's kind of like, this would actually look like a tail risk. Maybe not, I don't want to call it a tail risk event, but that looks like a point in the favor of tail risk if we see the Dixie showing us a bullish chart here. Right now, it is bullish, but it's still kind of capped by these very long-term standard deviation bands that were set during the bear market that we came out of from 2022. So nothing has changed with the reverse repos. That's still just holding flat. Gold is actually hanging on pretty good here. I was, if you guys remember, I was saying, hey, I'm a little bit concerned. This chart doesn't look great. It still doesn't look great. I would still want to try and call this a sort of head and shoulders pattern. And this thing could still play out like a head and shoulders pattern. And the target would actually be this area right here. So yeah, gold is still kind of in a limbo position. Again, head and shoulders, these cutely named little chart patterns, they don't ever have to play out. They don't always play out in the way, it's not 100%, obviously, but yeah, I would still say this chart is kind of in limbo. I wouldn't necessarily be a buyer of gold here, like in terms of a major investment. But hey, things can go anyway. Things don't have to obey the chart patterns. And last, we'll look at the stock market really quick. Basically, the S&P and the NASDAQ have kind of this similar pattern where, since 2023, you can see this uptrend, right? So we drew the first connection point here, we draw the next connection point there, and then we hit this guy again. Well, okay, we're bumping up against that connection point. So the week was overall positive, but it sort of hit this resistance here and then pulled back on the last 2 days. Same kind of thing happened for the NASDAQ. I'm inclined to believe that there's still probably more gains on the way here. Yeah, in this case for the NASDAQ, it wasn't quite as long-term of a chart pattern that we're bumping up against, but still kind of there. I still think that, like, again, there's probably still some more gains on the way for stocks. Doesn't mean it has to happen now. This little wick right there on the NASDAQ, that does look kind of like a hammer, just slightly. So maybe some kind of pullback needs to happen, but overall, like I do think that this is a natural target. These purple bands that are rising, I think that getting to those purple bands at some point seems to be a natural target. So yeah, we still got the election going on this year. I feel like, you got to feel like that the current administration is going to do everything they can to try and keep things at a nice state, economically speaking, so they don't piss too many people off, right? Because if you have the inflation that just happened, but then the stock market crashes, you're going to lose some voters there. So I have to think they're going to try and keep this thing rolling for at least through the elections. That doesn't mean, so there's the phrase sell in May and go away. So, maybe the summer, maybe there'll be a summer lull at some point here. Yeah, that's kind of what the markets look like. And Monero finding resistance at the obvious place to find it. But overall, like, I think we should be happy that we've effectively proven that we don't need the exchanges to keep our price, to maintain our price. We've proven that we're basically the only crypto with a real organic price. Maybe there's a few out there, but Monero's it. Monero's the one, guys. Like, Monero's the thing that we need to maximize before we go fling off to these other privacy coins or other cryptocurrencies. Oh, I guess we could take a look at what the other privacy coins did. Why is Tron here? They're not a privacy coin. Oh, that's the wrong one. This one. Yeah, so okay. The only thing that's actually doing anything good right now. Oh, maybe WoW. WoW token. Do I not have the right one? I don't think this is WoW. Oh, that's right. I couldn't find it. It was weird. I wasn't able to find Monero on. Okay, but anyways, Darrow not looking good. Ztrash crashing. Zcrash. R is unimpressive. Xano's the only one here that's actually done something interesting in the past couple weeks. So, yeah, keep using your Monero. If you're the hodler type, okay, that's cool. I hodl as well. But that's mostly because you need a fat stash for a good privacy stash of Monero. But yeah, keep using it, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, it seems like Xano pumped just a little bit, surprisingly.
Yeah, it came up. It actually pumped almost 50%. It's had a retrace here, 24%, but in the past 3 days, it's had another 15%. So, yeah, it actually looks nice. It looks kind of like a bottoming pattern up. It's kind of chilling out here. It's setting a higher low. So this thing could very well be setting up to make another move here to the upside.
And Xano's starting to get more popularity with the Monero crowd too. So it's actually it's actually starting to see more, like, get more attention and probably more usage. So
I think that's cool. I know we got some hardcore proof of work maximalists, but at least if nothing else, I think that we could probably trust Zoidberg is honest and he's not trying to like rip anyone off. So, and the intention of honesty counts for a lot when it comes to crypto. Track record, sure. That kind of thing.
Yeah, having the confidential assets is pretty cool, but I do understand why some people would be concerned about the hybrid proof of stake and proof of work. As it seems like proof of stake has been less proven to be a good system in the past. And not that it's not possible, but it hasn't been done well in the past.
I read a paper on this a couple weeks ago. It talked about, so there's 3 different proof of stake mechanisms that they looked at. And what they wanted to do is show whether or not you had provable fairness. So fairness being, if I invest, say, 3.5% of the staked, like the total staked token, am I going to get 3.5% of the rewards? So they wanted to look, does the network produce provable fairness and does it produce robust fairness? So over long time frames, do you expect it to converge to the level that it should be like fairly assessed at? And most proof of stake networks actually were provably either unfair or had issues with their fairness. So in other words, like, you could put some amount of token in there, but you're actually going to lose. You're going to get diluted over time. Interestingly enough, they analyzed Ethereum and their mechanism as being not only provably fair, but also robustly fair. So there weren't too many proof of stake networks that could say that for both cases. Obviously, the big point is, how do you launch a network directly from proof of stake and be fair with just proof of stake? And I think Zoidberg had a lot of ideas about it. So Andre had a bunch of ideas there. I haven't like really hardcore looked into them to see, whether or not I think they're good game theory or not. But hey, if anyone can do it, maybe he could.
All right, let's see if I guess Doug is AFK. Anything else that people want to see that we could look at chart wise?
Oh yeah, let's maybe take a look at these YouTube comments here.
I don't really see any
Exchanges are competing to get real Monero. They might be. If I was a scumbag exchange, I would be betting on the fact that that everything Monero is going to get delisted. Maybe if an exchange was smart, they would actually be trying to drop liquidity onto the new decentralized platforms. I feel like these exchanges kind of have like little dirty misdeeds. And so it seems to me that they do have a need for Monero to some extent. And I felt like that was kind of a thing Binance was doing. They were really playing both sides of the table here, where they were like shorting Monero, like fractionally reserving it, naked shorting it effectively, while still using it to interact in dirty places that they didn't want anyone to know about. Obviously, that's speculative, but it does feel like if you're an exchange and you're kind of like you're running your exchange on the fringes of the corporate world, barely legal or whatever, it does seem like you need Monero in that case, but who knows? Zephyr that stole our hash rate is going downhill as well. Pre-mine scam. Oh, you know what? Maybe we should look at Zephyr because, yeah, screw them. I always hear about those guys, and they're always stealing our hash rate. Zephyr.
They were for a long time, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. That's a round tripper.
Oof.
What did they do? 2,000%, and then they came back down. Wow. I bet if we looked at their liquidity, I bet it's pretty low.
Staggering.
Yeah. Here, let's take a look at the volume. Pin to new scale on the left. Let's go logarithmic. So their volumes look like they're about, I think this would be measured in Zeph. And since their price is $2, oh, wow, that's surprisingly high volume. This is daily volume. So they were like hovering between 20,000 and 100,000.
That actually is really high. Oh,
man, you really could have gotten into this coin and made a 20x. Damn. This seems like the kind of thing. So the fact that they were competing with our hash rate, I wonder if this wasn't some kind of like orchestrated scam, shitcoin scam by the same usual suspects that were probably part of the fractional reserve Monero scheme. Again, that's totally speculative, but that's the kind of games they play. So I just sort of immediately go there in my speculations. Yeah, I don't know anything else about Zephyr other than I kept hearing about it. It was the more profitable coin to mine. Not anymore. Not anymore, bros. Let's see. Hey, guys, is Cake still the best option for prepaid cards in your experience? Well, Tux, I think that would be right up your alley, sir.
Well, obviously, I'm biased here, but I do use Cake Pay myself for getting cards, and it still works well. Now, I will mention that we had some good Visa and MasterCards that recently we don't have available anymore due to the provider taking them off. We're trying to get those back. The current Visa MasterCards work, but they don't have the same features. Like, I don't believe they have 3D secure like the previous ones did, so they might not work for all vendors, unfortunately. But we're trying to get those old ones back. But for any other card, like gift card, you shouldn't have any problems with those at all.
Excellent. Prepaid credit cards are a nightmare if you use a VPN.
Totally. Yep.
I can't remember what's it called. The Shopping Bit, I think. The ones where you can pay Monero for like just a general card. I have not been able to use that like hardly anywhere. Maybe it's because I'm not shopping in the United States. It needs to be in the United States. Oh, I wanted to ask you, are the cards on Cake Wallet, are those US only, or can you get other jurisdictions?
Nope. You can get lots of, we offer cards for like dozens and dozens of countries.
Oh, nice.
And it just, you can check on, yeah, we definitely have some from Mexico, lots of gift cards. And we might also have the Visa and MasterCard, the debit cards. You can check stock and availability, just depends on the country. But you can filter by country and see which ones are available.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm starting to run out of fiat here. I try to minimize my fiat exposure, and I feel like I don't use the Monero card ecosystem sufficiently. Like I don't really leverage what I can with Monero. So I feel like I'm going to try and make a pivot here in my, because I'm going to shamefully admit I buy shit on Amazon. I buy stuff on Amazon, and you can totally easily get a credit card, an Amazon card for Monero in like a lot of different ways. So
oh yeah, totally.
I'm going to try and, I get Starbucks, I'm going to try and like pivot my pivot my daily expenditures to actually like using Monero a little bit more hardcore. But I had that dirty fiat for so long. Is like, you want to spend the money that's falling in value before you actually spend your hard-earned Monero.
It's reasonable, but at the same time, we're trying to do, use Monero circular economy, so it's kind of a hard thing.
Yeah, 100%.
But you can totally buy Amazon. Yeah, and this is a lot easier than buying just the regular debit card, because like you might run into some issues. And one thing that is annoying, and this is the case with basically every single gift card crypto store I've seen, is that if you buy the regular debit cards, not a specific gift card to a vendor, but the regular debit cards, they ask you for a bunch of information. If you get the regular gift card, so like the Amazon one, you don't have to give them any information. You can just get the card, get the code, and use that on your account, no problem.
Hey guys, any of you Chads watching the show, do us a favor and smash that like. All the Chads are watching over New Pipe, so they can't really smash the like, but
it's understandable.
If you happen to be in the comments, smash the like. Well, we only got 3 smashes on the likes. Or you can gently press it, whichever your preference. 29 watching.
Oh, see, now I see 17. I think you have to reload the page like every few minutes in order to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't update live for some reason, even though it's such a basic thing to do.
Yeah, okay. So I just reloaded. It's showing 19 now. That's weird. That you would think that YouTube would like have that figured out. Cool. Well, I want to say I saw Tony. Sounded like he was ready for the news. So since Doug is AWOL,
Doug is AWOL. Yeah, let's see if we can jump to the news. All right, see Tony. I'm bring him up. All right, thanks as always, Bawdy. Appreciate the price report. All right, I'm going to run the news segment.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by wizardswap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Hello, Tony.
Everybody. Hey, Tux. Man, how was MoneroKon?
MoneroKon was great. It was awesome. Very, very busy trip, but it was great.
Oh, it's such an amazing time. Yeah, I'm so happy you got to go. Was it your first time in Portugal?
Yeah, it was my first time in Europe, actually.
Oh, wow. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
You must have liked the food.
Oh, yeah, it was very good. It was very good.
That's awesome, man.
Did you ever go to MoneroKon?
No, I didn't get a chance. I just went to Monerotopia the first time.
I see.
So, yeah, I'm not really trying to go this year. Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you guys can see it. Okay. All right, so let's go over the news, guys. I have a couple interesting news for you, and then I have the YouTube chat on the right side. So if you have anything that you want me to maybe cover, some news, or you want to chip in, I'll pay attention to that as well. The first thing is somebody posted that, and I'm pretty sure this happened in London. So somebody, 1 second. So somebody got physically robbed. Essentially, 3 guys came armed with machetes over to his residence, and then they forced him to hand over his crypto. Now, this was posted in Monero, and the title is "The Beginning Stages of a Monero Bull Run." Now, there's a couple of implications. First of all, you shouldn't just tell everybody that you have crypto, because stuff like this could happen regardless of whether it's Monero and it's private, or something like Bitcoin, whatever, which is transparent. So that can happen irregardless. But then it could happen in some other way, which you make a payment using a transparent blockchain, and then they find out how much money you have, and they're going to find out where you live, and you risk getting robbed. So that's just another reason, a huge reason actually, for you to use Monero and to have privacy. And whenever I talk to people, they'll just say that, oh, I'm okay with people. What are they gonna do by seeing my finance. Nothing's gonna happen. Well, things like this can happen to you, unfortunately. So yeah, this is just another reason to use Monero, guys. Just to be safe, and don't tell people how much. Just don't tell people maybe in general that you have, or just be careful, because you don't know what can happen. So then the next thing, this is really cool. I really like this. So Tommy from All.Arc made a post, essentially Monero for Cash face-to-face. So you'll be able to meet someone in person and conduct a face-to-face transaction of Monero, which is awesome. You're just doing it in front of you. And then when All.Arc goes a step further and can deliver cash. So they can also deliver cash to any supported cities, or any place that you want. And the courier needs nothing but your address, time, and directions. So that is... Oh, somebody said thanks, Bawdy, for the price report. Yeah, thanks, Bawdy. Again.
Yeah, Tony, thanks for taking over, man. How long did have you been going now?
Like 2 minutes now.
Okay, all right. We got a lot going on over here, and we get engaged in conversations that
I know.
we can't get pulled away from. Yeah, I guess go ahead. You're gonna wrap up with the news. You're doing the...
Yeah, so I have a couple more.
Yeah,
you wanna go
yeah.
over?
I'll let you do your thing, and then we'll go back live over here. We have some people that want to jump on.
Yeah, awesome, man. Sounds good.
All right, sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, so like I said, guys, this is really, really cool from All.Arc. They can deliver cash to you, or you can do face-to-face transactions. So, and you don't risk to de-anonymize yourself in the process. It's really, really cool, amazing. Then I just want to talk a little bit about, take a little bit of a break and talk about Monero, Copa Monero. So you may know about it, maybe not, but this is such an amazing project from Monerotopia, MoneroKon. It's really awesome to watch. And we had the Cake team, the Xeno project team, all kinds of stuff. And it's really, really exciting. They all have Monero t-shirts, as you can see over here. Team Libertad, Team Huracan, and some more pictures that I can show you guys. This one, that's so cool. They painted Monero over there, and then people watching. Then a couple of videos of them playing over here. So yeah, I think the first match was on June 8th. It was really, really fun to watch. And it doesn't... I think the finals are going to be in November, so we still have quite a bit to go. So definitely watch and show your support. Then we go here, second game, Team Guarani and Cristaldo. I think Cristaldo. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. 4-2. So that was an intense match as well. And with sponsors, Basic Swap, Fire, Cake Wallet, you name it. And some more pictures. Yeah, so all in all, it's just amazing. So if you guys haven't watched it, please go ahead and watch it, and get some popcorn, beer, whatever you like, and enjoy. Yeah, it's a really awesome event. And actually, since we're at it, let's take a look a bit about Porcfest video.
Yes. Is this Cell 5? Yes. They accept Monero. Adam. Good luck.
That's awesome. Yeah, so Porcfest is going on right now. Porcfest each year. Yeah, it's really an amazing event, in which you can purchase a lot of stuff from Monero, gold, I think, and all kinds of stuff. Just it's an amazing time to spend with like-minded people. Then MoneroKon happened not too long ago, and I wish I was there. That was... MoneroKon is just such an amazing event with Monerotopia. Really, really fun times. And if you go to, let me show you right here, in case you missed the talks and you want to listen to them, if you want to listen to the audio version, you can. Let me exit out of this one. Yeah, so if you go to audio.thegooglemonero.com/@MoneroKon podcast, you can find all the talks. Ryan on MoneroKon, a directory for Monero Circular Economy. Andreas, the Monero Country. It was such an amazing event and a lot of good people there. Matthias, Basic Swap, Luke. So guys, yeah, go ahead and check them out, listen to them, show your support. And if you haven't been this year, try to go next year. And especially this year, try to go to Monerotopia. They're just such good times and amazing events. Then I want to mention, let's see if these are all the same. Yeah, these are all the same. Okay, so these are on Signal. This is pretty big. And I think we'll actually go, 1 second. Let me see where it is. We can start with this one. So Vera Jourova, I think you pronounce her name, I'm not sure. What she said, let me clarify one thing about our draft law in the EU to detect online child sexual abuse. Now that sounds great, and obviously we want to detect that and for it to not happen. That's an extremely horrible and reprehensible act, but they're using that as an excuse to break into your privacy and to mass scan your chats in the whole European Union. So what she said, the proposal is not breaking encryption. The proposal preserves privacy, and any measures taken need to be in line with EU privacy laws, which, yeah, pretty much they're just there to be. And it's just funny to mention that we talked about it in previous episodes, how, for example, when they asked people, hey, do you like cash? And people said, yeah, I like cash, it's private, and we can do whatever we want. We're not restricted. And a large percentage, over 70%, I think, of the people, or 90, I'm not sure, said that they want to keep cash. They don't want to go full digital. And what are they doing now? We're restricting cash payments to $3,000, $6,000, $10,000, or whatever. And then the rest you need to use your card so that they can track you, of course. So these are just
Tony.
Yes.
Tony, I'm here with 2 other people. How much more news we got?
Just this is the last thing. So I'm gonna mention a couple things and then that's it.
All right, sweet.
Okay, yeah, guys. So just quick thing. In November, EU Parliament led a beacon for global tech policy to essentially exclude end-to-end encryption from mass surveillance. So and they're using all kinds of rhetorical games, changing their terms, such as, let's see if I can find it. If not, it's okay. Yeah, from client-side scanning to upload moderation, just what we call the backdoor or front door is the same thing. Essentially, they want to scan your chats, get them to their AI, and just be able to control you. And this is the same thing. Signal, I think she's the CEO of Signal, if I'm not mistaken, but she said they will not comply. It's very interesting. That's the last thing. With mass surveillance mandates in countries where it becomes law, and while the company would fight the laws, it would cease operations without a second thought if there was no other choice, which is amazing. And then if you click on it, you have the Guardian article to read more into it. But that's it for the news, guys. Somebody said one quick thing. The vote has been postponed since this week. Good. That's good. Yeah, guys. So make sure you like the video, show your support, share, and back to the dog at Porcfest.
All right, man.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for taking the driver's seat, Tony. Appreciate that. We're going. Yeah, all right. We are back over here at Porcfest. We were just talking about how we had a talk here yesterday. We'll be having another talk here later this afternoon. Lots going on here. Let me intro these guys. Danny, what's going on, man?
Hey, it's Danny. Says I'm going to do the crypto show. Been doing that for a long time, and I'm over here enjoying Porcfest and enjoying all the Monero I've been making while I'm here selling my coffee.
He totally stole all our coffee business. But hey, it's pure capitalism out here. So may the best man win.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely go to XMR Bazaar and look for that Dragon X coffee, and I will ship it to you. Basically, I'm roasting this stuff on the road. We're traveling around in an RV, and I just go from park to park, and I'll break my roaster out, roast up some coffee, and if I get an order, I will mail it right to you. I have made one sale on XMR Bazaar.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll try to find the listing and put it up.
Yeah, Dragon X coffee right on XMR Bazaar. I have a similar project as well.
Wait, you could hold this.
Okay, sorry.
Got it.
Okay, yeah, and I have a similar project that was actually kind of an activist deal where it's called Agora X, and we took the code from the Silk Road and kind of revived it, cleaned it up a little bit, and yeah, so it is very similar to XMR Bazaar in the way it functions. It's peer-to-peer, but it's not just for Monero. It's for multiple other privacy coins. So it's a privacy coin playground, and I think that it's a good idea for the other privacy coins to get to know Monero, get to know each other, and maybe invest in each other and become a larger privacy community.
Yeah. The more the better. Does it have like multi-sig built into it and all that stuff? How's it functioning from a crypto standpoint when you're using Monero on it?
So what we've got so far is there's 8 or 10 different assets. I don't remember exactly, but each vendor would go and add which asset he wants to accept, and when you go to check out, there will be a payment option, and you click on that, and it'll show all the coins, and you just pick on which coin you want to pay from and send it to that wallet. So the seller would just put his wallet address for each one of those coins up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool, man. Very cool. Yeah, we've been going around. We've been adding some people to XMR Bazaar, which is really cool. It's nice to see these things popping up. The more, the better. We need options, ways for people to actually use this stuff. Ray is saying, "Is this the guy from Pirate Chain, aka the crypto vigilante pump and dump?" I'll let you respond to that.
No, I'm not with Pirate Chain, and I'm not with Crypto Vigilante or any of that. I do the crypto show. Sometimes I don't even get along with Raphael and I, but yeah,
dude, living the dream, man.
I love Raphael, but sometimes we butt heads on issues. So, but I'm still cool with it. But no, I'm not part of that. I do my own thing. All of the things that I do are generally focused on activism. Like the whole reason why I even built the platform Agora X was because of the Two-Man project, which not two man, but two men, which is the Nahuatl word in Mexico for money. This project is a bunch of revolutionaries that kind of got together and made their own paper currency, and we're building something for them.
I don't know, man. Stealing my coffee, stealing my name and likeness. XMR Bazaar. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right.
Well, we've been building that for 8 months now. So.
It's Tumin, Tumin, yeah, instead of AN. All right.
That's there.
Not to be confused.
It's actually almost as old as Bitcoin. They've been around for 13 years, and it started off as the Bank of Mexico sued them over this, saying that it was counterfeit. And so it was just in the small college. And once that happened and they won, then all of the media in Mexico, came to him and did stories on it. And now there's 6 different regions in Mexico that are using this with 3,000 users. It's pretty cool. I love it because they're anarchists. They're of like mind. They hate the whole COVID thing.
They built up their own little circular economy.
They built up their own circular economy. This Two-Man is a paper currency, and it is
this Two-Man.
Yeah, it's required that you accept 10% of your purchase in Two-Man. The rest is in pesos. So it's 1-to-1 with the peso. It's kind of a reward point, but it's solidarity and money is the way they describe it, and that's what it's about. So I just loved what they were doing, and that's why I wanted to get involved with it.
It is cool. We need to get them on Monero or something, right?
I do know some Two-Manistas that live in Mexico City. There's a whole contingent in Mexico City, and I want to invite them to Monerotopia to come and sell their wares. And then they can, that's the other thing about Agora X is where they can sell their stuff for Two-Man, but I want them to be exposed to the crypto so they can start taking that instead of the peso.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. And that's cool that you'll get them over at Monerotopia. That's fun. That'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to go to that for sure. Last year it was great. If you haven't gone to Monerotopia, you don't know what you're missing. Yeah.
Fantastic, man. And over here we got Max, who's been running the show with me. Yeah, you made this all possible. The very well engineered tent system you have going here, using his German engineering skills. He's been a phenom out here. Max, what's going on?
Hey there, Doug. Yeah, I would say like it's more like improvised German engineering, but yeah, enjoying the Porcfest very much, and yeah, very glad I could help you with the Monerotopia.
Oh, we should let's grab the sign for a sec. Let's
you mean the,
yeah. I showed them before. We'll bring it up again. Fran, grab that sign, the map.
Oh, the map.
Yeah, we'll show everybody the Monero map, which Max is really deserves the most credit for this. He's been out there going stall to stall, sometimes spending, I'd say, hours with some people, right? I think you've.
I definitely need to give a shout out to Isaac also.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a group effort.
Exactly.
But you were always part of the group, no matter who was out there at any time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, no, Max did a fantastic job of either talking to people that are already accepting Monero and telling them about things like XMR Bazaar and stuff, but then people that were not yet really used to it, you completely onboarded them, got them using it. Then I'd swoop in, make a transaction.
Yeah.
It was good teamwork.
Yeah, I have spoken to a German friend this morning about that I have no idea how many times I already like pitched Monero to guys here in English. And yeah, it's just so funny, and the people come from so many different directions. You've got people that have completely no clue about crypto at all, then a few people that know Bitcoin and other stuff, and yeah, of course the most people here already know Monero. So
yeah, overall, what would you say was like the response rate with Monero as to whether or not they were willing to use it?
Pretty good. I mean, I think at the start Isaac did a little survey, and we came to about like 70% acceptance rate already. And as the shops increased in number, and we went through them and onboarded a few more, I think we're currently at like 90% acceptance rate. So
amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, there's really we're not really getting any pushback, which is nice to see. People are just getting it right. Obviously, you're seeing crypto use at your stand.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm getting a lot of mine in Monero and Cash and in goldbacks, and then I take my goldbacks over here to Doug and I buy Monero with the goldbacks. In fact, yesterday when I was here, the goldback guy was over here doing the same thing, right? Like goldbacks is super interesting. I love that, but I'm all for the crypto. Keep loading me up on crypto.
I had all the gold backs laid out on the table. Look, it just looks so good.
Oh, yeah.
We need some kind of like Monero goldback hybrid.
Oh yeah, I mean, Goldback is doing their own crypto thing right now, so maybe, but it's still like really difficult to bring the digital currency into the physical space. So I don't know. Maybe we just use both.
Yeah, Benjamin, I think he's coming down to Monerotopia. He wants to pitch that project, continue to talk about it. Yeah, we got a guest that we want to bring on. Actually, one of the vendors that is accepting Monero and has been for many years. Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, get back to selling your go back to selling the coffee. What's going on, man? Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Daniel Shortell. Here at Porcfest and selling Malaysian Indian food and preferentially accepting Monero over at our booth. We do our best to advocate that people pay with the best form of currency out there, which obviously we know what that is. And you know what? It'd be great if I had statistics I could provide right now. And hey, numbers are wonderful. Nice and close. Yeah. But the problem is I'll have to do that when I get home. But I would venture a guess that Monero is, if not the top currency, dollar speaking, that we've accepted, it's one or two. It's number one or number two. But I think it actually may be the largest crypto for dollars that we've taken. So pretty impressive, actually.
And the day's not over yet. I could do a few mango lassis. I'm good for at least 6 more mango lassis.
The day's not over, and Max is hungry, and Isaac is hungry, and yes, no, but it goes beyond the Monero extremists in this particular tent. There are others that are showing up and paying with it, and it's amazing to see.
Tux, are you on right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
If you could pull up XMR Bazaar, we added his stall. What's the name of it? What's it called again?
It's called Chapatis.
Yeah, Chapatis. See if you can find it, pull it up. So we added you as a listing on XMR Bazaar.
We plan to venture deeper into that marketplace here soon enough.
You've been coming to Porcfest and doing this for how many years now?
This is our 4th year, but only our 3rd year vending.
Okay. Yeah, guys, you gotta. I mean, the pictures won't do it justice when pulling it up. They're basically running like a small restaurant here. It's very professionally done.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. This is not our day job, as it were, but it's a passion project, and we put actually quite a bit of effort behind pulling this thing off.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of different dishes they do, all very creative, tasty, super fresh ingredients. They got their son there making the best mango lassi I ever had, man.
Yeah, we sold out twice on that. Thank you very much, community. If we could get more local yogurt, we continue going. Problem is, we bought it all, so it's done.
They have mastered Porcfest.
Yeah.
They really have.
It has been a good adventure. And we started this whole thing 3 years ago. Our first Porcfest was 4 years ago. We showed up. There was a lot of fried dough for sale, a lot of hot dogs, a lot of food that we have no interest in. So we're like, all right, that's a problem. Monero solves the money problem. That's great. We can solve the food problem. We both have a background in the distant past of food. So we combined our brains together to put together what we think is a really good, healthy option for festival food. There we go.
You guys are awesome, man. The whole fam, you, the wife, the son. You're liberty-loving individual. I'm just trying to give you the
bump.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you a burrito. This was purchased with Monero, by the way. I think all my purchases here have been with Monero, and I haven't been holding back. I definitely have not been holding back my Monero purchases.
Yeah, it's so fun. So this is such a break from the normie world. You can come here and actually utilize in person these things we ideally want to do day in and day out. So you get to kind of do the full immersive experience here. That's one of the beautiful things of Porcfest, right?
Yeah, I also have solely been running on XMR this whole Porcfest over.
Wow.
Even the gold bags I sometimes use, I only bought with XMR. And thanks to you, Daniel, I wouldn't be able to run around here, organize stuff, and if it wasn't for the great food. Yeah. Because
you're literally keeping him alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good food. Yeah, it's incredible for a festival. This is not normal.
So if I just to make that perfectly clear, so Chapatis is actually literally fueling Max's evangelism of Monero. Yes, that's what I understood that to be. Shameless plug.
It's pure circular economy right there.
It's all up.
All right. What's that? I couldn't hear. All right.
Karaoke, I think.
Karaoke. Okay.
Oh, you don't hear me sing.
All right. Dude, what's give us some of your Monero insights.
Oh.
I know you, right? Yeah. I know you're a long time Monero advocate.
Yeah. Okay. So Monero, preemptive apologies, with my second currency I owned. It was Bitcoin. That was my first jump into this universe. I think I'm a 2015er. If dates matter, but kind of trying to understand the temporal journey. So learned about Monero just after Bitcoin, got into it for a while, just kind of collecting, hodling as you were. And then the whole interesting health debacle of the last few years really made me think more about the future of transactions, the importance of privacy, being able to kind of cloak your movements in the world, whether it's financially, physically. And so Monero really started to dig deeper in my head. And I think when you go down this path, you start thinking about the importance of securing that network. So then the idea was, okay, let's go learn about AMD chips and which ones are really good for mining Monero. And let's see who's making what kind of interesting miners online for the cheapest, most bang for your buck, let's say. And then so I built my own little rack of Monero miners and So I've got experience there. Of course, I run a Monero node. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, and so at present now, I like spending the Monero. I like getting more Monero more than I like spending it, which is good and bad, I guess. But that's the tension between having a thing you love and you want to use, but you want to hold, right? So I think we all probably experience that. What else of the journey? And then advocacy. I actually, so my son is homeschooled. Okay, this is a good story. My son is a homeschool child. He's one of those weird ones. And I teach a class called Revolutionary Finance at his co-op. And it's a 6, sometimes a 7-week course where we teach kids the history of money all the way back to bartering shells. We bring it through monetary instruments and coin clipping in the Roman Empire. We pull it up through central banking. And then the last section of the class is all these 12-year-olds get together and we install Monero miners on their computers. Oh my God. And they get to see the revolution that finance is going through currently.
How many people are going through?
So I've done this class 3 times, and we have between 8 and 12 kids that go through the class. So that's my advocacy. That's my teaching of, the next level kiddos.
You got to like put that up on like GitHub or something, like open source the materials and stuff.
Yeah, so I do have friends in like adjacent counties where I live, and I've started to pass the kind of outline how I do the class format to them. So it will be filtering out in my local area. But you're right, no, that would be a good thing. Just another way to kind of promote the concepts of sound money for the younger set, and then also show them a really easy way to like engage Monero, like to put a Monero miner on your laptop or your anything and just see it working, right? Is a great way to just come full circle with it. So yeah, you're right, Doug. Yeah. I should do that.
Yeah, I was thinking like eventually the Nodo device could be something that's in like every public library. Yeah. Right, and it has the touch screen on it and stuff. Maybe it could like teach you about Monero and just like sitting there. I don't know. These are things I dream about.
If I could on that. So our local library, we're one of the places where I teach our co-op class. We have this fab lab, which is awesome. We have 3D printers. We have computer lab that would sit really nicely near the 3D printers and the die cut machines. No, that would be a great tool. And actually, that would be a nice hop off point from the co-op class that I'm teaching, right? Pushing it farther to the edge, local libraries. I love that. That would, yes.
I mean, you're definitely doing a good job, man. Your son is a phenom with the mango lassies, and then the other things he was selling. He made all those things, right? Yeah, I saw he had like.
I got another story for you. Yeah. All right, so our first Porcfest 4 years ago, my son, he got into 3D printing. He's like 8 or 9 years old. Got into 3D printing. He learned how to use 3D modeling software. It's slipping my mind now. Anyhow, he designed this blowgun, and he printed out these flights and attached them to roofing nails and created these little projectiles that he could shoot out. These blowguns. So that was his first foray here. And
he invented that. It like kind of figured that out.
He saw riffs of the design online and then kind of made it his own and modified it. And so he brought it here and he had really good response. But back to Monero, it's great. So the thing that really got him excited about this notion of digital creation, 3D printing, and entering a marketplace and selling goods was when, I don't know if I should say the name, let's say a really nice person at Porcfest tipped him 12 Monero for a $10 blowgun. And he was just kind of over the moon. He chased the guy down the road. He's like, I think you meant to give me $12, not 12 Monero. And the guy's like, no. He's like, that's amazing what you're doing. He's like, that summarizes Porcfest. A 9-year-old at the time, a 9-year-old child selling weapons for privacy currency. He's like, that's summarizes Porcfest, right? And I was like,
if I'm not backing this
yeah, exactly. He felt morally obligated to participate in that transaction, and I'm glad he could sense that, right?
Wow. Take over, as I chew.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I only tasted the mango lassies and how he's involved and like taking over the stand if you're like busy at the moment. It's very awesome. But man, that story. Yeah, I really hope that I sometime down the future get to have kids like this. That's New Hampshire for you.
I gotta add his stand to XMR Bazaar. You got to see these dark. I mean, these things they're legit.
Yeah, he's had a lot of fun with it. Now he's moved on to the Blender, if anybody in the modeling world knows about modeling software, Blender is way beyond my pay grade. It's very confusing, but he's chipping away at it. So maybe he'll have something cool next year from that.
What does he say about? Does he have thoughts on Monero? Is he like? Does he have different thoughts on cryptos in general? What's kind of his crypto take?
Okay.
Obviously, I'm sure you let him speak for himself, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that caveat there. Yeah, I mean, he's been in the fold with crypto the whole time I have been, and I keep it a part of my awareness to make sure that if I'm learning something new, that I circle back to him and make sure that he's getting the information as well. So I definitely pull him along the journey. He helped me build the Monero miners. When we do the crypto class for the co-op, he actually works with the kids and helps them install the miner and teaches them that process. So yeah, he's right along with me. So as most families do, you encourage your children to save, and we always kind of at every point of saving, obviously when we finish up Porcfest and he has a surplus, there will be a discussion of saving, and then we talk about allocation and sound money principles again, and maybe you want some of this asset, some of this. So the dialogue is fluid. Again, the homeschooling environment, it's kind of like life is education, so it's omnipresent.
Yeah, amazing. Any thoughts on how we can? Yeah, because I assume you know kind of how that ecosystem works, the homeschooling ecosystem throughout the nation. Is there any thoughts on how we could get Monero out there among others that are homeschooling to make it part of their lessons?
Yeah, I think the growing awareness of the importance of the educational route you choose, and the cost of higher education should drive down the desire to move towards degrees and areas of education that are going to be positive cash flow after you go through that educational experience. That being the case, maybe we should focus on science and technology a little more. That being the case, we should start to push kids more towards programming and other scientific areas of study. That being the case, we should encourage more cryptocurrency mining classes in homeschool co-ops. I mean, essentially the course I just mentioned. I don't know why an education in monetary history and sound money and the future of money shouldn't be a part of every homeschool education. Much like you see the homeschool community always banging on about, my previous child didn't learn anything about how to balance a checkbook or create a budget in the high school. It's useless. They teach nothing practical. Well, maybe the extension of that is my child should also understand the direction money is going and know which technologies are helping to support that and be aware of those before it's 10 years later and they know nothing about what happened before, if that makes sense, if I didn't confuse my time there. So yes, I think we need to, cryptocurrency education should be a part and parcel to technology education within the homeschool environment. I don't know if that would ever get to the public school environment, but there's no reason that the kids shouldn't be playing a role with that now. It's not overly complex. You can start at a high level and you can start to kind of back down from that high level for any individual child that shows an interest.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, I know you're super busy at your thing. I'm surprised you were able to hang out over here as long as you were. Are people waiting online right now for food?
Yeah, they are, but I just, keep pushing my son even harder to sort things out. Baptism by fire, right? Yeah, right. It's funny. He'll go see his log sheet and he'll probably have some sort of like note on there. Well, I was all alone doing the work, so I get double pay or something. So maybe I'll run off and go fight that battle. And thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Hope to see you around much more. Thanks, oh my God, he's so awesome. Yeah, man. What else? Give me some other thoughts. You've been really seeing Porcfest, after hours, whenever when people like me go to sleep. I think you continue throughout the night. Yeah. What's really happening behind the scenes here at Porcfest? What's going on out there?
It's pretty much everywhere you go, or you're like just trying to go to the restroom, and then after 5 meters, you meet someone, get into a discussion that goes on for like 1.5 hours. The monetary system often comes up. I mean, okay, I'm wearing the Monero bag from MoneroKon, so that might be one of the things that triggers that. but in general, just so many awesome people that are like amazed by the amount of freedom and the prototype of a free society here. Yeah, it's for all the people out there, you really have to consider like coming to either Monerotopia or like Porcfest. If you're like more into the crypto thing, then maybe consider Monerotopia more. But if you're like liberty minded or curious in that direction, come to Porcfest. It's so worth it.
Yeah, it's just people engaging in open commerce and the open flow of ideas is all. That's where the magic is happening. It's not that it's obviously the setting is beautiful. You're in New Hampshire, you're in the mountains, but the concept is just getting like-minded individuals together that are just so open to selling all different types of goods and services directly to each other without anybody else being involved in transactions, and the same with just regarding information itself, just openly talking about any and all ideas.
And that reminds me of the one couple vendors we yesterday onboarded, that just kind of happened to stumble into the with a small notice of XMR Bazaar on the bottom, because that's also going to be great. I mean, the woman like selling her self-made soap, and that pamphlet or brochure, really awesome. That came very in handy a lot of times, like just getting some great food from chapatis, and then someone comes up to me, what's that Monero? And I just smoothly turn around, get one of those pamphlets, and then, cryptocurrency. Okay, interesting. And
that's
then
the fiat demise, by the way.
Oh yeah, big shout out for like all the folks helping with us with the whole setup and so on. Really appreciate it.
You can see a lot goes into even something like this, right? It seems like, let's just go there. We'll tell people, but it's an endless amount of energy you can put into it, right? Just a matter of how much you want to. And you'll get a return on it here because the people are out there looking to engage, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we started here. The idea came to life 2 weeks before Porcfest, and at that point we were at like MoneroKon, and then I flew here for Porcfest, and it was like all improvised. Luckily, I already knew a few people here, so we got our first stand. Maybe you saw the tweet from you on X, I guess. About that, and from that on we just grew, had our first talk with Sterling Luan. That was great. It got a little heated during the debate, but man, that was so awesome. And then the other talk, you're probably gonna upload.
Yeah, we'll upload that. That was with Sterling and
Matthew Roach.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's
Monero Mateo.
Exactly. Yeah, very awesome guy. And there are so many like stories here you can like stumble into, and it's so great. I mean, these people kind of made crypto and Bitcoin what it is today now, besides the darknet markets. I mean, these people like used Bitcoin as soon as it was a thing, and now they are like kind of making Monero what it is today, in a small like thing.
Yeah, we had Lynn Albright. She was hanging out in the Monero tent, like all the respected, crypto anarchist related type cipher, but like I felt like paid their respects to the Monero tent, which is very cool. And as she, seems as happy as she can be. It seems like she's feeling pretty positive, with the hope that Trump can get elected, and he promised, very clearly promised, that he'd free Ross on day one if elected. So there's enthusiasm around that. It was nice to speak to her about that and see her enthusiasm. So guys, if you haven't heard that concept, it's an important thing to think about. I know a lot of us well, fuck politics, not participating. But yeah, we got to use their tools against them as well. I mean, there's obviously a lot of issues with Trump from all different types of angles. He's obviously a hypocrite in many ways. He's definitely not a true libertarian. He goes with the wind, but he sees the wind going in this direction and he's going with it. And so it might be worth I think taking a risk and backing Trump, if nothing more than for the Freed Ross aspect. What's going on, guys? You guys want to jump on? Please do. Yeah. Yeah, we're live right now. We are live.
Unscripted.
We got Paul. What's going on, man?
How's it going, Doug?
Yeah, I was just saying how all the cool people stop by the Monero tent. So we must be doing something right that we have the thought leaders.
The Monero tent makes us feel a lot cooler. Plus there's some good coffee over here.
Some decent coffee. How's it going, man? What's your take on Porcfest? This is your first Porcfest, right?
This is my first Porcfest. I feel embarrassed that it's my first. I've been wanting to come for quite a number of years. Got intimidated by the logistics of travel, and this year I just said, fuck it, I'll figure it out. Had to get picked up by a friend last minute, and then thank God Sterling over here saved my ass because I didn't really have a way to get from a hotel 5 miles away, and he's been my Uber. So if you see him pay for,
are you paying with Monero for your Uber over here?
To Sterling, absolutely, yes. I've got every single meal and coffee he wants for the rest of this trip. Yeah, and I'm paying with Monero pretty much at every merchant. So I'm going to take a little video actually later of a snippet of everyone that takes crypto, asking what they take and what they're selling, and try to snip it all together as like this Porcfest, Silk Road little video. So I'll do that later. I know you're selling some coffee, so you're going to be on that video. All right, Doug?
Fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, you're doing a great job with your social media out there. You're summarizing Porcfest very well. I am surprised you haven't been here before, mostly because Edge Wallet is like, I feel it's like a Porcfest institution over here. like you talk to people like, I use Edge. Like it's I don't know what happened in the early days, but I think you had some good purveyors of Edge around here at Porcfest in years past.
I think we generally have good supporters within the anarchist libertarian community because it's strongly aligned with like our philosophy and when we build the product. I think we've been aligned with privacy. I think we were the first multi-asset app to support Monero from the very, very beginning. I remember when we launched Edge, we didn't have Monero support, but Mark Edge came to our booth. I remember I was joking. I said, "Oh, Mr. President, we finally launched our product," Mark Edge and whatnot. But he was the first to say, "Oh, we got to get Monero." And I go, "I agree. We're working. All right, well, let's try to get it in there." And so we've been close to Free Talk Live. I've known Denny Sessoms from the days of the crypto show, which I really miss from back in Austin. And Kat Bleish actually took some trips in her bus with her family over to San Diego. Libertopia came through, and I met Ernie way back in like 2015. We really clicked over the years. So I think the community and Edge and early on Airbits have been pretty close. So I think that's it feels home. I'll say that. So I think that's why we've got good support. We want to make sure we listen to what people say.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's super smart to be out here because it's like a dream come true for you. You see everybody using your product. You walk around, like you're asking, like suddenly can ask them, like, "Hey," some feedback. And I was talking to some woman the other day. She was saying something, something with like being able to view the USD price easier or something, and like.
Very possibly. Yeah. I need a little bit of that insight. Yeah. With
it's things you wouldn't pick up on unless you're actually using it in the field.
Unless you're actually using it in the field, or you're a company that fully surveils the app and tracks everything that people do, which we don't.
Right.
And so part of privacy is not just supporting Monero, but also not going and taking videos of people while they're using an app, which almost every Silicon Valley company does with their mobile app.
Oh, I think she was saying, because before I forget, something with the QR code for her wanting to be able to like then print it,
No, that's one that you're right. What she wanted, just to give an idea, is that when she takes the QR codes from the app and they want to print them, they want to know what the asset is. So putting the logo right in the middle of the asset.
Something really subtle, but really if you're a vendor and you're actually using this stuff, it solves the problem for you.
It totally does. And you don't realize people have that as a use case till you actually interact with them in person. So no, it's been a great experience. I'm really open to interacting with more people using the app, or even the ones that are not. Like, what do they use? What do they like? What other great apps are there on the market? So it's been a great experience. I'll be back.
Yeah, in terms of Cake Wallet, actually, Tux, take notes. I ran into like 2 different people that had their settings on their iPhone so that it would like blow everything up. Like it was magnify, right? So making it more accessible for like visually impaired. So, but when you open the Cake app, it doesn't function well in that setting at all. So you had to go through their settings, like reduce it. There was like no way to go through the menu items. So that's an important one. because that
that's definitely something.
those are the users that are in most need of a good working interface in that moment. Like they're not really like too tech savvy. So
I mean, it's very hard at the same time. It is very hard when
I'm a
users
technical guy, but my eyes have gotten so bad that I need those modes. I am in denial because I have not set the blow up mode yet, but I feel like I'm maybe a year or two away. Either that or I'm going to have to get reading glasses. So I can now finally really sympathize with those users.
I'll be right behind you.
Yeah.
But I'm not technical. Yeah, you are technical.
Yeah. So it's not just the technical, it's just the old folks that are getting blind.
The Nodo, man. What do you think of the Nodo concept, where especially we were saying like with the view key, the light wallet server?
I think it's a great idea. It's also gorgeous. I got to admit, hats off to the design. I love the metal. Unrelated, I've gone down this rabbit hole of like eliminating plastic. That's mostly in food, but when I see like this nice, beautiful metal exterior in just like computing hardware, I fall in love. A little bit of me. It definitely appeals from both an aesthetic and feel point of view. And so it's a beautiful device. And from the viewpoint of being able to have a really like fast no sync experience, which we know we've been providing from day one, but then also being able to hold your own view key is really, no pun intended, it's really key, right? We've integrated enough privacy protocols to learn that sync time is a real killer, right? It's a real killer from rapid use, people actually using the currency, not just being a hodler. And Monero and privacy coins are really built for utility. So eliminating both the sync time, but also retaining the highest level of privacy is a great accomplishment for Nodo.
Awesome. Yeah, it means a lot coming from you. We built it with you guys in mind, you, my Monero, the apps that are currently using the light wallet servers. Fantastic to hear. Yeah, I'm sure Abdullah, if you're listening, I know you are. I'm sure you're very happy to hear that feedback. It is beautiful. He ran the whole project for me. I mean, he was a project manager, but he also is a designer, and he is an artist. He actually, I should try to pull up his website. He does beautiful art. And yeah, he put a lot of effort into it. That metal case, in addition to being aesthetically pleasing, it's the heat sink for the device. There's no fan in there, so it actually gets very warm, almost to like concerningly warm, where you're like, wait, it's supposed to get hot, but no, it is supposed to get that hot. It's diffusing the heat. Sterling, man, I feel we got to get some more words from you.
Yeah. Where do you want me to start?
I guess give it scope of things, right? I mean, so this is your first Porcfest?
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, go talk to the mic.
Yeah, so this is my second Porcfest. The last one I was here was a good while back in 2015, but the very first Porcfest, things have changed a lot, right? The very first Porcfest is also the very first time that I used Bitcoin. Was in 2015, and it was after that experience using Bitcoin that I went back to my wife and I said, we're going balls to the wall, headlong into cryptocurrency. So started buying Bitcoin, started working in the ecosystem. And so this was before the days where anybody was really concerned with privacy, right? So Monero at the time here at Porcfest was not on the map, but now it seems like the sides have flipped, right? So
what year was that?
Yeah, that was 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And now being here, everything seems to be about Monero and anonymity and privacy. Of course, we've had a lot of shakeup and nastiness and brutality in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, right? So it's really good to be here and actually see people caring about privacy. And I think early on in Bitcoin, people originally thought that it was more private and anonymous than it is. And technically it's pseudonymous is the term that they use, right? So anyway, I think this Porcfest is more amazing in my mind than even though that first one is what really got me into crypto. I really love this and I love working with you as well, Doug. A lot of fun.
Yeah, no, you've been great, man. You've been great, and thank you for the book.
Yeah.
What's your take, man, on Bitcoin at Porcfest, right? Versus some of the other maybe more cash-like cryptos?
Gosh, it feels like it's definitely lost a lot of love. I'll say that. With a few people still, I think a lot of people don't really want to talk too poorly about it because it's still the godfather currency. It's still like the thing that launched this entire revolution. And so, no one's really like, shitting on it the way you might see online. But realizing that what they want to be transacting in, and this is a transactional economy for as long as it really, exists. And Porcfest is a kind of a temporary type of an event. I'm hoping to see Porcfest and at least the transactional economy extend beyond the event. And that's a much, much more difficult challenge, but one that I had a dream of seeing back in as early as 2014. So what do I think, kind of to wrap up that concept, what I think of Bitcoin is, I think everyone still sees it. They track its price. Everyone's looking at that price, but they're not really looking to transact with it. All right. So it's still holding that store of value gold narrative. Now the question is, how long can it keep that narrative? Because at the end of the day, once you're transacting 90% of your time in something else, you'll end up finding it more convenient to just hold that thing. All right. It'll beget holding, which is like what happened with the dollar. So everyone had store value of gold, but then converted to paper to transact. At some point, they stopped even holding the gold. They just held the paper, and then you kind of depeg. So in a way, you could eventually depeg from holding Bitcoin but transacting Monero to the point of just holding Monero. That peg, even though there never was a peg, just the transfer of value starts to get created. And I do think Bitcoin has a few things up its sleeve and a few developments that challenge the spending narrative, but nothing on the pipeline for privacy is kind of the concern. Or at least the things in the pipeline are just tiny nuggets of privacy. There's like private addresses that are being created. That's only a third of what Monero and other privacy protocols provide. And I don't know if that's really enough, or if it's just throw a bone at the privacy community versus actually provide privacy. These like new, they're not called stealth addresses, but
I know. Yeah, Cake implemented them.
Yeah. So hats off to Cake, because they're not easy to implement. I just don't know that they give value for the effort, like the effort involved in doing it, and then now having to add sync time to Bitcoin, and only getting a third of the privacy that Monero gives. I don't see its value yet. And so for me, if I want and I do want privacy, I'm using privacy coins, and right now primarily Monero.
Very cool, man. Wait, what you said in passing that you had a dream of everybody using crypto outside of it? Well, get into that a little bit. Like, get into this this vision.
I mean, when I say I had the dream,
you could hold the mic.
Oh yeah, thanks. So when I say I had the dream, that was the founding of our company. We first launched our original app, Airbits, and all it was a merchant directory. It was a place where you can find places to spend Bitcoin. Much like XMR Bazaar. It was mobile. It was on the web. And then we added the Bitcoin wallet there with its UI really catered to spending. Like you launch the app, you're one tap away from a QR code scanner, right? It was really meant to quick spend. It even had NFC and Bluetooth spending. I really miss those. Those were fun. But our ecosystem died from the viewpoint of merchants. Bitcoin fees went up. I know that killed a whole bunch of merchants. To some degree, what also killed merchants became the explosion of other coins. Because Bitcoin wouldn't adopt privacy, it wouldn't adopt smart contracts, and it wouldn't adopt scalability. So now we have a whole bunch. I'm not sure how we overcome that, the fragmentation. Fragmentation is both good because it flourishes innovation, but it's also bad because people get confused, right? It's like the too many choice problem, right? I think and here I don't want to say speak bad about the concepts of anarchy and libertarianism, but I think this community downplays the disadvantage of choice. People don't realize how much the average human actually wants to be guided on what choice they should make. And I get that a lot when I talk to people about crypto, and people just say, I think at Anarchapulco, a friend from San Diego was there, and they're there for a lot of freedom-minded concepts, but with respect to crypto, should just tell me what to do. How often do you get that from an anarchist-minded person? Just tell me what to do. I don't know what to do with crypto. Just tell me what to do. And I think we don't realize that is actually in the minds of a lot of people in a lot of their life. And it really is, it's to tell me what to do until you tell me something I really don't want to do. And that's when the line gets drawn. But on average, people need to be guided. And the fragmentation of crypto makes it somewhat challenging.
For sure. I don't know. Any thoughts on that topic?
A bit on that one. I want to back up a little bit too about Bitcoin in general and its lack of ease of use, and also its lack of privacy features. The first thing that comes to mind is when I was here in 2015. Of course, the fees on Bitcoin were non-existent. That's why everybody was using it. This speaks back to Paul's point. If it's usable as a currency, that's what the Porcfest crew, the anarcho-capitalists, the voluntarists, people with that mindset. They want ease of transactionality. And so Bitcoin really spoke to that at the time. And that's why I was interested in it. So being able to leverage Monero, right, or a number of other currencies as well for transactionalities is absolutely key. But, you know, another thing that plays into the privacy and anonymity piece of Monero also, and this is talking back in regards to Bitcoin as well. I got into a debate with a guy online not long ago where he said what's got to be most important, or what should be most valuable, is the purchasing power of your currency. That should take precedence over the privacy and anonymity features of a currency. So his case was, why does privacy and anonymity matter if your coin's not worth anything? Well, I made the case, well, what does your purchasing power matter if you're locked in a government box or a government cage? You want to try to be as anonymous and private as possible to secure your freedom, right? And this is not to say that you're doing something criminal, but as we know, governments can go after and criminalize people for doing anything they want. So I think it's good. It's good that Porcfest is really promoting Monero, and the Monero crew is here for not only the transactionality of it, but also the fundamental features of privacy that really make Monero what it is, and also emboldens the community to keep pushing the technology forward. So yeah, and again, that goes back to the topic of how amazing this event is for spreading the good word of Monero, right? The good gospel that is Monero.
Even in the rain. Even in the rain. Well, thank you guys. What else you guys got planned? Anything you want to put out there in terms of info? Actually, yeah, anything I should know about Porcfest? What do we got going on? I mean, are we doing the talk here at 4?
Yeah, 4. Yeah, so something I'm really excited about is at 4:00 here we're going to have a talk about, or a little mini panel on free Ross, right? So a lot of you guys are familiar with Ross Ulbricht's case, the fact that he was sentenced to 2 life years plus 40 years in prison for building a website. And of course, we'll get into this later, but everyone brings up the murder for hire charges, which were actually dismissed by a court with prejudice and never came to fruition in court. So the whole idea is free Ross. All of the circulating information about him is just propaganda and bullshit. And that's what we're going to talk about at 4:00. Really excited about that, and the fact that you'll help us host that.
Yeah, we'd love to be honored. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
fantastic. Cool. Paul, anything else you want to throw out there? Any information, anything you want to get out to the Monero community?
Actually, number one thing is, if anyone out in the Monero community has not come to Porcfest, please come out. Check it out next year. You'll be ecstatic about the ability to actually spend, and to some degree even earn Monero. Come out, bring out a tent, sell something, sell a service, sell some product.
Just not coffee, man. We got
enough coffee vendors. Although that was the one thing I was telling Sterling, if I came out, I'd bring my full machine. You know,
it's the coffee competition. Machine.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so bring something, or just spend some Monero. You got to come out here. Like, Monero community can't not be coming to Porcfest. Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Thank you so much. Cool. And maybe we see you down in Monerotopia. I know I always try to get you on the spot.
No, for sure. I'd love to come to Monerotopia. It's still further out, where I've got to figure out my logistics, family as well. I do have 2 kids and whatnot. But I have every intent of going to Monerotopia. Yeah, I loved it there last time. So looking forward to another trip.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Yep.
Thanks,
all right. Yeah. All right. See you later. All right. Tux, you still there? We got you?
I am still here. Yes, sir.
But it's now back to drizzling a little bit, but we are hunkered down over here in the Monero tent. We have a nice little wall that we put up. We're actually better sheltered than most.
The cozy Monero tent.
The cozy Monero tent. You got the Nodo humming along in the background.
Single-handedly keeping the hash rate up on the network. Right?
Yeah, keeping it warm and cozy in here. Do we have? I don't know. Maybe this gentleman wants to jump on. We got Jeremy wants to jump on. Yeah, we're live right now, man. Yeah, come on this side. No, you're not ruining it. You're making it historic.
Okay, you haven't heard what I'm gonna say.
All right. Okay. That's gonna really be historic. Here we go.
Well, I just want to warn you.
Hold on. I can't in the mic.
I can't stay for very long, so I am just warning you. But it's I love that you're doing this here live at Porcfest. Porcfest is such a fun environment. There's nothing like what happens when you get a couple thousand libertarians together, so it's difficult to describe, or capture it. But it's stuff like this, I guess. Maybe like I'm here representing the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, is one of the groups I'm representing here.
I know you ran for Senate, right? Last election or the one before, right?
I did. I made some funny advertisements that are still floating around on the internet out there. But LPNH has it's the most popular Libertarian Party social media account of any state affiliate in the world, and we're doing a promotional campaign actually. So I've been walking around selling tweets to people for just $25. $25 a tweet, and that's yours forever. And so that's what I've been walking around doing right now. So.
Fantastic. All right. Very, very, very cool, buddy. What's your Monero take these days? I know I had asked you a few years ago.
So I'm very pro the technology, and of course Monero has a specific feature or set of features that is lacking in some of the other ones. And something that I like a lot about Monero, to me, what's important about this stuff is that it be useful in the real world, that it solve problems. I suppose I do have the problem that I can't buy something cheaply and just have it be worth a lot more money in the future without doing anything. Like that's I suppose I do have that problem, but that's like not, honestly, that's the kind of thing you should be very skeptical of, that's a sustainable kind of thing. And so for something to be valuable, this isn't me claiming that crypto creates, but I like the idea that it's this enabling technology, that it enables us to do things. Like I found Operation Choke Point, where the Obama DOJ, came in and basically said you can't use credit cards to buy firearms and marijuana paraphernalia and all of these things. I found that very offensive. And so this idea that we could have digital money that would liberate us, our ability to conduct commerce digitally, I think that's very, very important. I think cryptocurrency is clearly like solving that problem. I get frustrated that it doesn't happen faster, and I get frustrated that there's not as much focus on doing something that is like usable, but
usage.
Yeah. But I think if anyone is doing, like, Monero is on the much better side of that than anyone. But I'll give you an example. So, and this is not me.
This means a lot coming from Jeremy, by the way.
So this is an example of something that I actually think I will provoke my followers and be like, no one in cryptocurrency is solving this problem. And one of the better replies I got is from I think her name is Vanessa, or a technology poet or something like this. She's pretty involved in that.
Yeah.
And so she was telling me about this third-party Buy Monero, website that was similar to like local Bitcoins, but they're also, I think I saw that they're also facing
Local Monero.
Yeah. So how is this working? Is Local Monero?
Local Monero just recently closed down.
And this is the problem. Yeah. And so,
but the replacement right now is Havino, which is, Bisq is very similar to Bisq, but Monero based.
So if your solutions we need solutions that can bridge, that work for like normies, where like a normal person can feel comfortable exchanging their cryptocurrency for cash or other instruments.
We have instant exchanges built into Cake, but those are centralized. And then what's up and coming is Sarai Dex, which is like Thorchain, which will be built into the interface of Cake, so you can instantly swap in and out of other cryptos with Monero in a seemingly easy way.
I think this stuff is interesting, and I think it has value. So I'm not trying to be too negative about this stuff, because it's good work that's being done here, but I worry that what's being created is a ghetto. So yes, you can do all of these really interesting things inside of this world, but it's not if you care about, the Canadian truckers problem, a government all of a sudden says that you can't use your bank account, and you're a normal person who has never touched any of this stuff, and now you're scared. You want to take cash in your pocket, you want to send it to someone else, and you're scared. For the first time in your life, you're scared of your government, right? People here are already scared of the government. Most people aren't. So this is the first time. This isn't going to be they're going to know nothing, and it's going to be a scary thing for them to do in the first place, because they're engaging in something that feels
we need a super easy way from going from cash to Monero.
Yes. And so you need that the normal person can do. Or, one of the things that just does this is horizontal adoption. So like just having a focus on horizontal adoption. I don't care what the price is. I don't care if you hold a lot. What I care about is what percentage of the population has some amount in their wallet. Because if you have enough horizontal adoption, then the government saying you can't transact doesn't really matter, because you have enough peer-to-peer density that everyone knows someone. So marijuana distribution is an example of an industry that had good horizontal. There's some fraction of people who wouldn't know how to get marijuana, but there's a huge portion of the population that this is an illegal purchase. They're breaking the law. This is like normal for them. Was a normal part. So you need
alcohol during prohibition.
Yeah. So but that requires going that type of attitude versus buy it on Coinbase, and then you will buy it for a little money and it will be worth more later by magic, because it starts to look like something that's not, it's got to be. I like to see things that are much more focused on we're going to enable people to do things that couldn't be done before. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. My daughter's trying to contact me right now. Yeah, respond to her. Don't leave her hanging. So one of the things we launched was xmrbazaar.com. I just launched that like a couple of days ago. But that's a Monero-based peer-to-peer marketplace. And it has Monero multi-sig built into it, where there's mediators that you can use if you want to do large transactions. But obviously from the get-go, people are already looking for it to be posting like looking to, sell cash for Monero. I'm trying to keep away from that usage on that platform just because I don't want to be considered a money transmitter. We don't partake in any of the transactions. We don't take a transaction fee. I'm okay with the gold backs to Monero posts that are happening right now. And then the cash to Monero ones. I mean, we have to see where we can go with that. It is truly peer-to-peer. So if people want to post, hey, I'm in need of cash for my Monero, I legally see nothing wrong with people exchanging cash for Monero directly, if it's out of a need.
Well, one of the and this is a harsh.
You're not in the business of doing it.
This is a harsh reality of the law that, honestly, even a lot of libertarians don't get, although plenty of them do, and probably more than the average person. It's not really real. It's not a real thing. It's only a sort of real thing. I'm not saying it's entirely fake, but it's only a sort of real thing. You have all of your written down laws, but in terms of what determines whether those laws are actually broken, it's what the judges will decide. And the entire history of the way the judicial process has worked is when novel things disrupt society, judges are very good at being like, well, of course the law worked this way. And so you don't really get the idea that it's this balls and strikes kind of thing, that if you very carefully dot every I and cross it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It gets very messy here. I'm not trying to say that.
I know you have very much firsthand experience in this realm.
Yeah, I don't want to tell people can look up my story. I don't want to tell my whole story from scratch right now. But yes, I have dealt with the federal government. I lost the case, spent millions of dollars fighting the federal government, trying to get them to tell me what their laws mean. And they insist that they have a definition, but they don't. And the only way you get one shot. So you guess if you did it right. They sue you, and then you lose, and they insist you could have followed the law, but they'll never tell you how. Was my experience, trying to deal with them. So this is a problem. You have this facility, this emergent, this principle that you want to exist, and this thing is exchanging Monero. And so you go around saying, well, okay, like I'll very carefully understand the laws, and I'll come up with a way to do it that's within the law. But effectively, with the laws, what you'll end up finding is the laws are written so vague that or maybe intentionally, that like anything, even if you find some way of doing it within what seems like it should be within the law, yeah. So
what is your kind of recommend or call to action right now of something immediate that everybody can do to help push the needle forward?
I don't actually know. I think it's largely the builders of the technology or the cultures in the communities that need to push more towards so you can also be excited about different things. Like really interesting things can be created that can only be used by a small percentage of competent technical people. Like there are like some of the things you're talking about are very technically and financially interesting. And so it is cool, and hopefully more and more of these things will work, and I just want more real things that work. But they mostly don't work because of the same peer-to-peer, the same in and out problem. where it to the extent that they exist, they end up being like kind of a ghetto. And so people would rather just, so but it need more focus on the horizontal adoption. Whoever's doing that, and feel free to tell me. I'm happy if people can tell me the right things for me to be shilling. But anyone that's focusing on that side of it, because that's one of the better answers. Either that, I've seen some like very clever designs where you can like protocolize the anonymous exchange of these kinds of things, where you're gonna have vendors with reputation and exchange them in ways that you don't meet, and like have trustworthy exchanges. I don't remember the names of those products, and I don't know if they're going anywhere. But people thinking about thinking that way, I think, is the most necessary kind of thing if you care about the idea that this will truly be money that is liberating in how the individual can use it.
Very cool, man. I greatly appreciate you stopping by. Anything you want to shill, get out there? Any information you just want to put out there?
If you liked what I had to say, you can follow me. I'm most active on X right now under my full name, Jeremy Kaufman. And if you're a libertarian and you haven't came to the libertarian homeland, you have to do, one journey to libertarian Mecca in your life.
Even in the rain, it feels amazing to be out here.
Yeah. And so if you've never been out to Porcfest, you can come out to Porcfest or any other time of the year, but you have to come at least once. Oh,
wait, one question. Politically, because I appreciate your political takes and everything. What do you think of Trump and him saying that he'll free Ross? Were you already backing Trump, or are you now backing him because of it?
Yeah, look, Trump sued me, and I'm going to vote for him, so maybe I'm a bitch. There's no other choice. The libertarians didn't put up anyone good, and maybe Vivek will save him. Maybe he actually will free Ross. I don't know if you
have you spoken to Vivek directly?
I've spoken to Vivek multiple times. He came out to Porcfest.
I know last year, right?
And so and so maybe we've got some chance. 10 or 20% of something is better than nothing. So I'm going to go Trump.
All right, there you have it. Very cool. Very cool. That Jeremy stopped in. One of the old school Porcfest individuals. Tux, we still got you there?
Always.
All right. What else we got? We're doing viewers on stage, or
yeah, we can jump into that.
We did news already, right? We covered all our segments.
We did.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with viewers on stage, it could be tough with me communicating with people. If you want to run it real quick, we can see if anybody has any Porcfest related questions or anything.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Alrighty. Anybody? We got anybody that wants to come on down?
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have people coming up right now. Alaskanon, what's going on? We got Alaskanon, we got Tux, obviously, we got Mandelbrot 42. Who's that?
Not sure.
Speak.
It's a great day, but I'd love to hear from this new gentleman.
Alaskanon, brother.
Can everyone hear me? This is Mandelbrot.
Yes, we hear you.
Wow. So I'm a long-term lurker.
All right.
I just kind of wanted to join because there's only so much you can do being a lurker in a niche community that I believe in. So yeah, I don't know. I just if there's time, I figured I'd give my Bitcoin Monero story and
yes.
All right.
Please do.
How's it going? So yeah, I heard about Bitcoin back in 2010. From on an online forum unrelated to Bitcoin. Then I came across Bitcoin Talk. I tried to install one of the early miners. I had no clue what I was doing. I gave up, didn't really look into Bitcoin much after that. Didn't really know, even how to bring it up in conversation. It was just sort of me going online, learning and reading. 2012, I can't really remember what actually triggered me to look into Bitcoin again, but I started looking into and learning about Tor, PGP. I was going to buy Bitcoin online, but honestly, at that time, everything looked like a scam to me, so I didn't. I did come across Silk Road. I like the idea of like an agorist marketplace like that. I went onto the site just for browsing and just out of curiosity and learning, but didn't really do anything. Continued to lurk. 2013, I think like in the fall sometime, I went back onto Silk Road, but then I noticed that the big FBI badge was on the website saying that it got taken down. Even though I didn't really own any BTC at that time, I never really bought anything at that marketplace. I just became paranoid and stopped looking into it. A few years went by. 2015, I started talking to coworkers about Bitcoin. For the next year and a half from that point, I researched heavily, learning about the Bitcoin technology, learning about OPSEC. At that point, I really just wanted to self-custody it. I didn't really trust anything online, and any third-party custodians. I really wanted to buy it peer-to-peer. Didn't really know much about how to go about doing that. Hardware wallets, I started looking into that in 2016. I was still researching. I'm one of those people that like researches heavily before doing anything, sometimes to my detriment. But anyway, I noticed that there was local BTC ATMs around. Never really did it. Didn't trust the cameras. So then, there were Bitcoin meetups locally. Again, I didn't want to dox myself. I did download Bisq in 2016, 2017. It just seemed a little bit too clunky to me. Then I came across, I don't know if anyone remembers one of the older Bitcoin wallets called Mycelium, but I used to use Mycelium wallet. It had a great thing. It might still have it. It's called Mycelium Local Trader. It's a P2P marketplace, similar to like local Bitcoin in your pocket. It basically just links people up who want to trade their bullshit fiat for Bitcoin. It didn't really custody any of the coins. It would just be like, hey, linking buyers and sellers up together to meet at like a local coffee shop. So I bought my first amount of Bitcoin back in 2016, 2017. Became really good friends with the seller on that marketplace. Would go out to bars, we'd have chats, we'd buy each other rounds, pay each other in Bitcoin. He actually is the one that introduced me to Monero at the beginning of 2017. At that point, like I knew that Bitcoin was like transparent, and the transaction costs in 2017 just became ridiculous, and then the whole block the block size wars and with SegWit and all that stuff just kind of gave me like a bad taste in my mouth regarding Bitcoin, because it's like I didn't really see a way out of privacy issues and security and or privacy issues and the cost of transacting. And then I looked more into that and more into how Monero solved those issues. 2017 was the year that I really started to become serious about privacy, security, moved away from all Google services, no social media, VPN, Tor, all this stuff, started learning about mining. I figured I was too dumb to learn how to do it, but here we are. I'm a Monero miner, contributing to the network, running my own local node, got 75 kilohashes per second on average every day since like 2020.
Wow.
Yeah,
so how much does like Monero does that yield a day?
At the current network difficulty, it's yielding between $2.50 to $3 a day. When that hash rate dropped with that botnet being taken offline, we were assuming that botnet was a large part of the network hash rate. Profitability went way up, and I was making, for about a week, I was making about $4 a day across the 4 machines.
Nice.
But yeah, so anyways, in 2017, the whole thing was ridiculous with Bitcoin. Learning about Monero, moved, I was pretty much only Bitcoin, then transferred over into Monero, started learning about Monero, and then by the beginning of 2018, I was 100% Monero, never looked back. Monero keeps on growing, keeps on getting better, and I'm becoming, it's really great to be part of this community and becoming, being part of it and being an active member, participating in the network, self-hosting, self-custodying, being part of the, the local economy. I still have friends that we buy each other stuff and pay each other, with Monero and for items and stuff like that. But yeah, no, just great to be here. I can answer any questions. I follow the Monero community very closely, and it's great to be part of it. So
how do we get you down to Monerotopia? You got to come down, or maybe you already have. I wouldn't know.
No, I haven't. Yeah, just with family stuff, probably not be able to travel down. However, I remember the cake meetups in New York City. I've been meaning to, I'm not sure if those are still happening, but yeah, I've been talking to Fiat Demise. He's local to where I am, so we might be doing something. But yeah, so just wanted to introduce myself, talk about my journey.
What do you think of XMR Bazaar? Have you checked that out?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, I think XMR Bazaar is great. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I actually used the Open Bazaar. I think that was what it was called.
Yeah.
I created a store on that years ago because I really wanted to like earn Bitcoin as opposed to going on an online exchange. I wanted to actually be peer to peer, be actually for what the technology is. It's supposed to foster peer-to-peer transactions.
You're not the guy that I tried to sell my Jeep to in 2018.
No.
Actually, I met that guy in Portugal. He's like, "Hey man, I'm that guy." In 2018. You can look that post up. It was on Reddit from I think it was 2018, summer 2018. My red Jeep.
Yeah.
Wish I had it right now. So my broken down Volvo. By the way, that post is still live on XMR Bazaar. I need a mechanic that can fix my Volvo.
So yeah, I just wanted to.
I'll let other people engage with you. I have you on speaker here, so I'll be able to hear you. I'm going to be making a coffee in the background. But guys, please, Alaskanon, please engage with this fella.
Yeah, and I just want to say before you start, P2 pool for the win, all day P2 pool. Honestly, Hinto has done a great job with the Goopax software. So I would say over the past year, I've been using Goopax with P2 pool connected to my local Monero node, and the mining experience has just been seamless for me. So
that's awesome. Glad we have a big P2 pool user. Most people end up going to the big pools, the centralized pools, because convenience, and I guess you get slightly better rates maybe, but yeah, P2 pool's the way.
Yep, absolutely.
These are actually my favorite stories. It's probably my favorite thing when people come on for the first time and share their Monero story, because it's if anything, that's the most important market research that we have, because if the goal is adoption, you always want to know how are people finding it and how can you go from there. But it kind of ties into what Bawdy was saying earlier today about how there's so many of us that don't watch Monerotopia on regular YouTube, right? It's like New Pipe or something like that. There's so many of us who didn't enter the mainstream crypto ecosystem because we could see the security holes. We could see, the tax man coming when it comes to transparent blockchains and all of that stuff. And it's cool to hear Mandelbrot. Can I just call you Golden Ratio or something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But it's cool to hear a gentleman, sharing these experiences about how like Monero often finds itself the crowd of people that were looking for the freedom that Bitcoin promised and never delivered. And it's another important thing that we're noticing about how people at Porcfest, you see the accessibility issues, right? Or another good example, there's a person that lives with me that she's legally blind. She basically can't use any device that uses like traditional LED screens and stuff. And we're talking about the most vulnerable individuals, disabled individuals that cannot use most of the traditional banking system as it is for technical limitations. They're at the highest risk for things like fraud and theft and so on. And if we do address things like accessibility issues, Monero stands to be like a path for them to enjoy their freedom. But, there's another good example of, we always talk about people like fleeing a country or an oppressive government or whatever. And it's cool to see how Mandelbrot's story jives with all of that. And how you go to a place like Porcfest and everybody already wants to use Monero. And it's like, where's all of those Bitcoin pumpers that, like if a person lived on Twitter, they would swear that Bitcoin is like the future and everybody's using it and everybody. But the more outside the system, when you ask people what they know about Bitcoin, it's just like Oh yeah, the number just keeps going up, and I guess you put fiat into it, and then the number goes up, and then you take fiat out of it, and you have bigger number. Like they've done nothing for the actual underlying infrastructure of the original goals. But then people like you come on, and you say this isn't what it was meant to be. So the people who wanted to use it have already left and have already given up on it. The people who brought it into existence now hate it, right? When it comes to Bitcoin. And then the people who are in it now have no idea how the tech works. They have, and it's literally just, you know, laser-eyed maxis swearing up and down that it's the future of literally everything. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing that story. That was amazing.
As far as accessibility goes, that's something that I deal with on a daily basis, being legally blind myself and using screen readers a lot of the times to do things like reading articles and things like that. Like if I'm just using my devices, you know, just like right now, for example, I know where things are on the screen, so I don't have to use my screen reader to do them. But especially when I'm like reading or doing something that requires lots of work or whatever, I have to use a screen reader to use the computer. And there are a lot of people who just don't think about accessibility. And it's not that they're bad people. It's just that it's not their use case. And so they don't think about it. And so then you have to go back in and retrofit accessibility into these products. And when you retrofit accessibility, it's a lot harder than just doing it right to begin with. And
agreed.
So we need more people with an accessibility focus, such as myself and others, to be like, hey, this doesn't work. Like in XMR Bazaar, I found that the combo boxes, for example, on the pages weren't labeled correctly. And so I had to address that and be like, hey, this needs to be fixed. And I'm certain it will be fixed.
I know that they're probably trying to get this new guest on here real quick, but one thing, if you're a developer out there and you want to product test, let's say, for the disabled, legally blind or whatever, these people are sitting on piles of time in order to product test your accessibility situation. And they will volunteer like hundreds of hours. They will volunteer product testing. And the thing is like the gap between like a software engineer who has full use of their eyes and ears, or like they're already technically proficient, versus somebody who so I'll give you an example. Almost everything is developed for like iOS and Android just generally, but nobody thinks about like the functionality with e-readers, right? And e-readers are an immensely important tool for a lot of like certain kinds of use cases. And the other thing is their battery life is absolutely incredible. There are a lot of people that even if they could use it on, let's say, an Android, they would rather use it on an e-reader. But it's all about contrast. And so there are all kinds of places that you can reach out to the disabled. You can reach out to people who have accessibility issues, and they will volunteer their time. And that time is useful for both the disabled and the non-disabled, because they're also going to offer you a perspective from a less technically proficient standpoint. And they're very diligent, and they have plenty of time to thoroughly document what is going on. So, and by the way, if anybody has any questions about how to find those people or whatever, I'll make myself available to help you find those people. I will direct you to people who are willing to assist you in finding software testing accessibility issues people. But I mean, Surfer right now is an individual that is precisely what you're looking for. Nice graphene phone.
Yeah, thanks guys for jumping on. And I have another local guy and seller here. Maybe you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Monero, or your ideas on the Monero.
Sure. Hi, I'm just some random dude here at Porcfest. But I've been a cryptocurrency enthusiast and advocate for quite a long time. And yeah, I love Monero. I love that it certainly seems to be the best option for a private cryptocurrency. And so I've tried a whole bunch of others like ARRR, the pirate coin stuff. And they kind of follow Monero's mold in the same way that a lot of the other cryptocurrencies have followed the Bitcoin mold, right? At least that's my perspective on it. So, oh, sorry. Oh, just checking sound.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, what else, Max?
Yeah. You sell meat here.
Yes, I do.
And what's your experience? I mean, you probably like mostly get goldbacks, I guess. But what's in the cryptocurrency space like? How do you like? You have attended a lot of Porcfests, and what's the shift maybe over the years? Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I do sell locally here, and I don't know. There hasn't been a lot of crypto adoption. I hate to say, it's just way clunkier than just whipping out fiat or pulling out goldbacks. And I don't know. That's definitely something we as the cryptocurrency community could potentially focus on. It'd be really nice to find a good solution around that. I'm a developer, but like it's not as easy as just saying like, oh, you have the power to do this. We have to have the idea, the initial execution, and then adoption. So I would love to see more, but it's been slow. It's been difficult, especially when the goldback guys come in and you have these like shiny strips that you can show people, and people are very excited about them. So we need some hook like that for Monero. I even have some of the silver Monero rounds, and they're beautiful, but they're also still not as easily spent as everything else. So I'm not exactly sure what direction to go with that. I think there's a lot more people talking about cryptocurrency here at Porcfest these days, but not that many more using it, which is kind of a twist.
Oh, yeah. Maybe on that note, I mean, people started like adopting Bitcoin early on, very early on here. And I know that a bunch of people use like Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, but it seems like Monero came in hard like in the last few years, at least from what we experienced, at least 90% of the vendors accepted. A lot of people I talk to know about it or are at least curious. So what's your like experience with that over the years?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about because we're in the same chat. That there's been a lot more back and forth on like, oh, this one's better and that one's better, and there's been a lot of, for lack of a better word, zealotry around it. Like they're really like into it, and that's fine. I try to stay out of those chats because I think it's all about the right tool for the job, right? And if your goal is to have a fungible, fast, simple cryptocurrency to use, maybe BCH is what you want. Maybe Zcash is what you want. But Monero fits the role very well of you want it to be private, you want it to be widespread, you want it to be decentralized. So to your point, I think there are a lot more people analyzing these different coins and coming to the conclusion that like, yeah, Monero has it. Monero has most of what you want.
Yeah. I was like, a few people were like pleasantly surprised by how easy it is like to use actually Monero and how fast it is to use and how cheap. But then I also like heard from a few vendors that accepted Monero like also last year, and they took out their wallet, haven't it opened in like 3 months, and needed to like sync like 70,000 blocks or something. So there's like a bunch of like good feedback, but still like it's a little rough in the edges.
Yeah,
I have a question.
There's other
for
issues around that as well. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
So I have a question for you. When it comes to the multitude of cryptos that are available, what do you think the impact on things like Haveno and the fact that Cake can use so many of them interchangeably, and then the linkage between the two about how a person could accept, well, I guess it, depending on what the transaction fee is of the crypto in question, but like, if, for example, you can buy and sell in Litecoin and immediately switch it over to XMR. You can use XMR and it's almost exactly the same as using Litecoin with some of these developments.
Sorry, we're being instructed how to properly conduct stuff here. Let me see if I can paraphrase the question since we were interrupted a little bit. I think you were asking like maybe the choice of which cryptocurrency to adopt doesn't matter as much now that there's much more of this possibility of like accepting one and then switching immediately to the other.
Well, that could be the implication, but I'm mostly asking if you think that. You know what I mean?
Great. Yeah. Okay. I guess I buried the lead on that a little bit. Yes, I guess that does end up kind of making them all the same. It turns into this big old like cryptocurrency sludge that then you can turn it into what you want. But the other thing I'd say about that is often I don't see a lot of friction for crypto users around like, my cryptocurrency's in this network. I need it to move it to this network instead. And, I want my Litecoin to become XMR. I find that to be a far less important barrier, or a far smaller barrier than I have my Litecoin. I want to get it out of an exchange, right? The change process out back into the real world, if you will, is the much harder part. I don't think swapping between cryptos is as big of a barrier as actually getting it back into your own wallets or into USD and other places, because of all the KYC and all that kind of stuff. Often when you're doing exchanges between the different networks, Litecoin to XMR, XMR to BTC, that's all within an exchange or within a platform. And we don't have nearly as much intervention in those cases. That they're okay with changing all that stuff. So I've seen way more friction around how do I get my XMR out into USD or into Goldbacks or something else. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. And that kind of leads into the next thing, which is, do you think that kind of the death knell of that on-ramp, off-ramp exchange liquidation situation, do you think that comes in the form of escaping for a transaction between real assets and crypto? Or do you think that, the dollarized escape is still a vital element of all of this?
Once again, I'll try to paraphrase so I understand what you're asking. It was do you think it's a solution to this US dollar off-ramp from the crypto space could be solved by using other types of assets?
Yeah, like Goldbacks or silver.
I mean, theoretically, yes, as far as they're currently unregulated and they have way less barriers as off-ramps. So yes, I certainly think so. But just wait until the empire continues to die and continues to flail. They will try to control as much as possible. They're going to say like, hey, if you want to get your cryptos off of this exchange for any reason whatsoever, for Goldbacks or whatever, right? They'll throw bills in the way of all of those things eventually. So for now, I think they're a great solution, because USD is very painful. But as I was telling Max beforehand, KYC is not going away. It's going to keep expanding forever, which is why Monero is so great. Is like at the foundational level, it builds in privacy. So it's really going to be very difficult to break the Monero layer of that problem when it comes to fiat inserting itself.
So one thing, if I go on something like XMR Bazaar right now, Doug is obviously at Porcfest, so I can't order him a pizza because he's not there in where he normally lives in New York. But there are several listings on something like XMR Bazaar that's like, buy me a bag of silver, or buy me this freeze dryer, or buy me this real world product, and I will pay you for said real world product in Monero, so you never touch the US dollar at all. That's a good way to get Monero. And then something like Haveno, which is a decentralized exchange that does not require KYC. Some of the traders can require KYC if they wish, but they have to be upfront about it and say, hey, we do KYC. And if you don't want to do that KYC, you can choose not to do business with that trader. There's no like shotgun KYC process.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that's a marketplace, but those who are taking on that with taking on a set of transactions without the KYC backing behind that are taking a risk, and we all know that, and that's okay. As sometimes you can, as long as it's consensual between two people and all that kind of stuff works, I'm all for it. But we all know that it's going to be the feds expanding KYC, and they're eventually going to say like, hey, your not only is your actions without the know your customer guards in place, not only is that disapproved of, but it's now a felony, right? They're going to keep moving this along as far as possible, and people are going to collapse away from doing these exchanges because of that. At least that's my perspective. That's what I'm expecting, is that KYC is only going to get worse unless we keep the opportunity to do KYC-less transactions. And maybe that goes back to doing things like buying somebody just a pizza, right? And eventually the IRS and the people who care about KYC will come in and be like, okay, well, we have to calculate the US dollar value behind that transaction. And now that's a KYC event. And like, so it's just going to be an arms race forever, in my opinion.
Yeah, when I was thinking about like Havino, we wanted to take a look at that maybe after Porcfest.
Sure.
And that's probably is like easier to outlaw, I think, because it's like a very clear fiat to crypto exchange. But like the XMR Bazaar way, like buying somebody a pizza or something, it's like just I buy normal stuff that is in the KYC world or in the normal world. But then someone like donates me some amount of XMR for that. And it's, if the technology behind that, I mean, maybe we need, if the regulation get too hard on that, maybe like a decentralized version of XMR Bazaar. But other than that, I mean, because like Douglas has his head now in the crosshair? Yeah. But in general, I think that's probably, if the regulation gets stronger on that, that's probably the last man standing. That's what at least I think right now.
Well, there used to be Open Bazaar, and it kind of died in like 2018, 2019. It still exists to my knowledge, but like I don't know anybody who uses it, and I think they were just too early. And the fact that they hitched themselves to the Bitcoin bandwagon at 2018 was a problem after the block size wars and the fees started going up. And they did a lot of things wrong. They had a really good idea, but they did a lot of things incorrectly, at least from what I can tell. Because that was supposed to be a decentralized marketplace like XMR Bazaar, but all running over the Tor network, just like Havino does today.
Maybe I saw a question from the paper Vigilante if they have KYC here in Porcfest. So in my 2 years at Porcfest, I haven't encountered that at all. So I don't think this is a thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that would mean, because we're not acting as an exchange here, and I guess they're asking like, oh, I have to check your ID before I take your Monero for this like pizza or something. And of course not. The whole idea of Porcfest is to get away from that system and to eschew it. I guess that my expectation is that the requirements for KYC may expand to the point where that will be required. And even if that's true here at Porcfest, or at least for myself, I'm never going to require it. So sure, I will be the outlaw that needs to do that, I guess. So, but that's all I'm trying to say is I expect KYC is always going to be marching forward. It's never going to go away. And eventually we're just all going to be called terrible things and potentially have charges against us for using a private currency.
Whoa. How does the guest see the XMR distinguishing itself from the other cryptocurrencies?
Oh, great. Yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about all the different explorations that have happened over the last year, at least in the chat that we're in. We have a lot of people talking about Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision and Pirate Chain and like all this stuff. I'm still big on board with Monero because it has, to me, like proven out some of the things that I think Bitcoin missed. And that's no slight against the Bitcoiners. I like Bitcoin quite a lot. But Monero has adopted the things that Bitcoin, the core group, have explicitly said they don't want to do. But then Monero has also been successful. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a great experiment. Privacy first, great. Ring signatures, awesome. Quantum hardening, yes. variable block size. That was a very big question for the Bitcoin community, and Monero decided, hey, we're just going to try it, and we'll see. We can always roll it back. So yeah, that's how society works, isn't it? We come around to it. So yeah, I think that's one of the big things that Monero has done right, is they're willing to be an experiment around all this stuff, and they pick and choose the aspects and features of these different coins that work well for its central vision, which is a private, decentralized currency. Does that answer the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and do you see the general audience want to learn more about it?
Like with regard to the chats that we were talking about beforehand?
Like, no, to the technical aspects of it.
No.
Or like the people genuinely interested in it, like want to know more about the technology. How do you see that? Thanks.
I think that's probably one of the things I'm the most annoyed about when it comes to cryptocurrency, is there is a lot to learn, and really to choose a cryptocurrency, you kind of really do need the technicals, which is why it's really difficult to get non-technical people on board with it. And the more I talk with normies, the more they realize that there's that technical barrier, and they tend to normies. I don't mean to be offensive, but but that's a good question. I have not seen that much more technical interest, but it tends to scare people off, in my experience.
What you mentioned earlier about the fact that with the gold backs, being those shiny pieces of not paper per se, but like you get the idea that you can just hand to somebody, and it's like, here's a physical representation of this value that I'm going to give you for this other thing that I desire. The Cassatius coins that Bitcoin had for there for a while seem to really fit that vision, and something like that for Monero I think could be really good, like something that would be like a 50 Monero bill or a 100 Monero bill or something like that, with a QR code that's hidden under like a hologram or something like that, like one of those scratch things that if you peeled it off, it's obvious that that thing has been used and therefore is of no value anymore. But while it's still got that QR code or that private key intact, would be a good physical way of handing somebody Monero without ever doing an online transaction or dealing with the QR codes and the sync times and everything. You could just hand the person this 50 Monero bill. Now with the Cassatius coins, from what I understand, they basically told them, hey, you're a money transmitter, you can't do that. So whoever it was had to stop doing that. But it seems like if somebody could work that out and do it from a country that doesn't have doesn't really care about the US rules, I think something like that could possibly work.
So I'm gonna that's an interesting idea. I'll have to research those coins, and I have seen some of those tabs that you can use to and I also have slips in my pocket that allow me to basically hand a private key public key pair to someone just on the slip of paper, and then I can load that up with that as much as I want, write down how much is on that address, and then hand it to them. That's a physical thing. That's understandable for my friends and family and people who are not into crypto. But I'm actually going to go against that a little bit with what I was thinking of while you're speaking there. Was I would actually like to be able to say, like, hey, let's do a transaction in Monero. Mine is set to like 1/10 of a Monero, a dime of Monero, and then we say, okay, cool. I want to give you 50 cents of Monero. I go tap, 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 and then done. Like then we finalize the transaction by like clicking the side or something. I'm trying to think of some other way that is still digital, still on the chain, but is far easier to do as like a personal engagement kind of thing, instead of like, poking at your phone, opening up a separate app, scanning a QR code. I would love to use the idea of the like Bluetooth or NFC, that kind of stuff that would make that far easier. And I think even maybe some custom hardware for that would be really cool, that we could make that like a product to make those exchanges far more personal.
What if you could also trustlessly send as like a bearer asset the key. You wouldn't use it for large amounts, but so where you could transfer the actual seed, using kind of open source hardware. Yeah. So that you don't need internet, right? So then, so for denominations, right? Denominations that you can.
Yeah, we discussed that in a little group at MoneroKon. But I think as far as our technical knowledge was about Monero, that's very hard to do. And if you like open dime, right? Yeah. And with the whole wallets passing around thing, is you have like always need to trust the other person that it's really like on there, and the person doesn't like get the money out there before you can actually use it and so on. So that's like really tricky. I mean, there are view keys, but still it's very like you can't like verify that the view key belongs to the actual seed on the paper and so on. And this is like, it's very, very hard like to solve the like bringing the digital product into the physical space so you can trade it off chain. So yeah,
I actually have to run because I'm invited on stage for another talk. But if you guys can, especially if you could hold it down, and then you can close it out with Tux whenever. Sure. Keep it going as you wish, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, sure. Tux, I hope you got me. By the
I have
way,
a question for you too when you're done with what you're saying. Go.
Just a quick question. When you talk, do you hear like an echo?
No.
Okay, perfect.
So far, so good. I'll let you
Okay.
know if I do, though.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then please your question.
So my subtitle here under my name, it's Free Your Hardware. Personally, I think the biggest concern with crypto is right now we have a serious hardware issue as far as Intel management engines or AI chips that are being embedded onto everything that also offer like a serious backdoor problem. And I think that the open source software movement is just humming along, right? But the open source hardware movement is just falling further and further and further behind. And then how uphill that battle actually is absolutely ridiculous, because you have like military industrial complexes that not only have a vested interest in maintaining that level of control over people's hardware, but then also the adversarial worldview, like at a lower level, like the stooges at the generalship that don't realize that it's all one big club, right? Whether it's Russia, China, the United States, it's just the state versus you. But like the people at the lower levels, like the 2-star generals and such, like virulently defend the idea of keeping hardware closed source and development of hardware closed source. So I have no doubt that you, sir, have thought about this a lot, right? And I would like to hear, I would like to hear some novel approaches that communities such as Monero and others could take to. So I love the Nodo thing, right? I think Doug doesn't honestly even get why I'm so fucking stoked about the Nodo, right? Because it's like this is a super important first step in having hardware that is like secure at the firmware level, right? This is an important step for having a means by which the Monero network is not being run on a bunch of computers that all have these firmware backdoors or architecture backdoors or whatever. But my question to you, sir, is what else can we do to get this moving, right? What can we do to create more free hardware?
That's an excellent question. And obviously, if I had the answer, I would probably not be here right now. I'd be enjoying the sun in Bali somewhere after making a billion.
I demand an answer from you now.
Okay, but I have thought about this a lot. As far as there's a really, really interesting YouTube channel that I like a lot. Is this kid? He was like 16 when he was doing this. He decided, oh, I'm gonna make my own printed integrated circuits. I'm going to figure out my own lithography. I'm going to build my own, basically my own computer chip architecture. So he catted it out, set it up to be like a 4-bit chip or something like that. But this kid went through so much work just to get his first chip printed in his garage. And the reason why I'm telling you about this is, one, it's a really cool series to go check out. And two, it just shows you how much technology and precision and difficulty goes into making these very specific computer chips. So it's not as easy just to say like, oh, we'll just make our own chips. Of course, then we know what's in there, right? Or, hey, we want to use an open source version of these chips. Well, they've had literally decades worth of, they've had trillions of dollars poured into making them work, and all their complexities that are in there. And then you have to worry about so many other things that are around it. So hardware is incredibly difficult. And even with the RISC stuff is really cool. At least that's all open. But that's just a specification. You still have to go down to the hardware, the actual like silicon level, and build a lot of this stuff. So it's really hard to have an easy answer for that, because especially as these chip fabricators are basically guarding these very complicated secrets. To your point, they may be building in features, parts of the hardware that we can't see, we don't know about. Even when you say like, hey, I have this open plan for this architecture, can you print me this? They may be like, yeah, we can, but like, we can read these, we understand what's going on here, we're going to put our own little thing in here. It's incredibly hard to verify hardware. And it's incredibly hard to just say like, hey, we're going to make our own. So I don't know what the best answer for that is.
It might take some sort of sacrifice in performance to get there. Because like,
I'm all on board for that, but I really, I've thought about the hardware thing, and I have no idea where to even start. It's hard.
Because like, you can't print. Oh, good.
Your internet glitched out for a little bit, so it got choppy over there at the live end. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, if you had your camera, I'd say use it. Yeah.
Well, that might have been our link. Yeah, that might have been us.
Yeah.
And performance is one thing. Like, I use a crypto key that not very fast and not very usable. I'm going to be moving to a more open source one sometime soon.
Well, oh, good.
I don't think like performance is really an issue these days, as long as you can get to a decent like base architecture. So I agree with you. Maybe some of the performance can be dropped in favor of certain things. But that still doesn't fundamentally solve the problem of, can we trust this hardware?
Well, see, my thought in that process was that it's easier. It's really, really hard to print chips or do lithography at the kind of scale that like Intel and all the Samsung and all the rest of these, with like 2 nanometer and 3 nanometer and 1 nanometer like processes. But like, I recently saw a news article, and take this with a grain of salt, that Russia had managed to build its own 350 nanometer chip fab. And you might say 350 nanometers. Well, that was in the Tamagotchis in the 1990s. That's crap. But they managed to do it themselves.
The Porcfest side is still cutting out, but everybody else is coming through great. So I guess we'll just keep talking to keep the airtime going. And
last game on, what makes you say that the firmware of Nodo is secure?
Well, whether or not the firmware of Nodo is secure, I would point out that it is more likely to be secure. And so here's my response just generally. So for example, Nova Custom, right? They invest a lot of time and effort into open source firmware development, and
now we're back.
Keeping it live is back. Nice. Porcfest is back online.
Yes. But try to stop us, but like, yeah, sure.
It's more or less.
See you later. You're back in an hour or something?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
The thing
Okay,
about like the Nodo or the Nova custom situation with the firmware isn't so much that you can verify for sure that it is secure, but it is more likely to be secure. And that's kind of the situation we find ourselves in right now is, you know, or like disabling the Intel management engine. I mean, we have reason to believe that it's working, but the first question is it possible to re-enable it? And then the second thing is how long before the stuff that they build on top of it requires it to be working in order to not brick your computer and all of that.
Well, the question I'm doing is to shamelessly plugging Voither, the bunker phone that I let run on Ubuntu server on Raspberry Pi. What's your commentary about that? How secure is that?
Well, where we really find ourselves with that is we are now at a point where we have to trust that the people that are making, you know, ARM chips for Raspberry Pi and stuff, that it is not possible for them to inject like faulty or defective components within the architecture. We are at the point now where the trust but verify model is becoming increasingly difficult. And, you know, one of the things that we talked about in favor of the ticketed approach to Monero applies in the opposite direction when we're talking about our approach to hardware. And what I mean by that is when we were talking about having to trust that blockchain A is secure, even though I'm only running nodes on blockchain B, well, the thing is we trust open source hardware based on the premise that hopefully someone somewhere has discovered whether or not there's holes in it, especially if you're the one compiling it. But the problem with hardware architecture is how in the fuck are you going to verify anything? It's kind of like the real, but then the other thing is, how many people can even audit firmware if it is open source? You have such a tiny pool of eyes that even have the slightest clue what they're looking at. And then you're asking them to take their incredibly valuable time and direct it towards re-auditing what another guy who has that capacity has already done. It's kind of a serious fucking problem. You know?
So in that context, how do you feel about our privacy being limited to, well, the NSA sees everything, but the other people don't because nobody can look at it. You know what I mean?
So let me just throw this out there. I have worked for a lot of these super spooky 543 letter agencies in some capacity. And I just want to be really, really clear about something to people who are almost close to nearly as paranoid as me. For one, I promise you I'm more paranoid than you. And for two, these people are every bit as incompetent as every other schmuck you meet on the streets. Okay? They are usually depending on more competent people from either the private sector or extremely well-paid tiny pools of people within the industry to do the vast majority of work for them. So the real target, if you're afraid of like the Five Eyes nations and all of that, you just have to get like 150 productive people from each country that currently work as a security professional for the NSA or whatever to be like, fuck this job, I'm leaving. And they don't have any of this capacity that people talk about just because, like, you know, for example, like the Pegasus thing. It's like, okay, well, in theory, these people could be spying on every single phone, collecting the data, hopefully reverse engineering the firmware, or I mean, the cryptography and all that stuff. But you just have to remember, these people are extremely incompetent in aggregate. It's a tiny number of people within these actual three-letter agencies that know anything about anything. The rest of them are annoying bureaucrats that add additional paperwork to getting anything done at all and then getting paid. And then some of the competent people spend more time hiding their affair from their wife or whatever than they do actually trying to spy on you. Okay, so go ahead, bud.
Yeah, so for me, I'm not too worried about that stuff. Honestly, it's not about fear for me. I'm not paranoid on that level of things. To me, it's much more about the consent of moving myself out of the background, right? I don't want to be spied on because I don't want to give someone else the opportunity to say, hey, here's all these verified facts, and then one lie. And then that becomes a new identity for me. It's all about the consent side of how do you engage within the world and the community. That's why I like privacy, is I get to give up that shield at my own pace, right? It's not about fear of other people finding these things that, whatever. I have nothing to hide, but I have everything to hide because I want to engage slowly and learn about people and take down those shields of privacy myself. It's all about how I'm trying to present myself to the community. If that privacy is violated and other people have the opportunity to build a profile for me without me being involved, to me that feels like a violation. That is why I like privacy. So I'm just trying to give a different perspective on, like, you don't have to worry about these NSA agents spying on you. Well, I think you do, especially if they are so incompetent, because they have all of this information and are incompetent. So that means anyone who gets their hands on it who is competent is now just as dangerous as they are.
Well,
does that make sense?
One perspective that was given to me against paranoia is that, well, you're not that important, so it's cool.
And that's why I say it's not about how important you are or the things you have to hide. That privacy is more fundamental to me from that side of things. Like, I'm a very open book. If you talk to me, I will tell you anything you'd like to know. But that's up to me, right? Privacy is about control of my own identity and my own person, and engaging with people on a peaceful, even playing field, right? I have nothing to hide. I will tell you whatever you want. I just want it to be at my pace, and that I can come to trust you about it. That's what privacy is about to me. I'm not paranoid. I don't need to be paranoid. I have no fear around these people.
Yeah, I agree on that stance. That's
I feel for the people who are paranoid about these people spying on them and think that they're going to do bad things to them. I'm not even going to make the joke of, like, if you think they're after you, they are. They are out there. They are watching. And our goals for privacy should be around creating a healthy community where everyone can blend in and be unknown as much as possible, because then you get to start from fresh and say, hey, I really care about being a good person within the Monero community. And that privacy layer lets you do that.
I wanted to bring up some FUD that Doug brought up in a later show, which was that Satoshi's keys are to be broken with $30 million in hardware. I bet you guys heard that too.
I'm sorry, ask again.
Are we enjoying
No. Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. It was
in
more
a
like
later show that Doug interviewed the guy in the Libertarian National Conference that the Satoshi's keys are to be broken with 30 million hardware and stuff like that. I bet you heard that too.
Well, I'd point out that Doug didn't say it. It was just a guy that was being interviewed that said it.
Yeah, exactly. A guy said it. Yeah. So that's a FUD. What is that about? Like, there's new hardware, there's new algorithms, and
force it. I mean, I get where the guy is coming from. In theory, the math could work out, but you'd also have to be so lucky as to end up having brute forced his keys. There's no fucking way that you're gonna get that lucky with 30 million. But I mean, in theory, technically, he's not wrong. He's just way less right.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the guy saying that it was $30 on the low end of just the electricity alone, and like the types of people that have access to the computers and systems themselves are very few and far in between. I think like the low end was 30 million at like a 50% chance of cracking the keys.
Yeah, I guess I'm on the other side. I don't think that's fear and uncertainty and doubt. That is definitely a do it. I dare you. And then there's so many things that'll be important that comes out of that. Like, I think the Bitcoin situation will only get better if someone can sit down and say, like, hey, for a tiny pittance, I can break someone's keys. do it, and then we'll figure out exactly what that means. That would be a huge deal. But I agree with you guys. That's not happening. It's not.
I don't think it's not going to happen.
happening.
I mean, Bitcoin's the government's bitch at this point, and it's like, why would they ever let go of this? I don't think, Amy, people that have access to that level of computing power are, nation states, and they're
even then, what are they going to get out of it?
They're not going to get exactly. They're getting more out of it as it is now than to, break Satoshi's keys.
They would get more out of the Bitcoin network by basically raiding all of the exchanges and saying like, hey, Bitcoin's now illegal. We're just going to take all your keys. They would get more out of that than breaking Satoshi's core keys, right? It would also spread that level of FUD, right? That would be far more impactful if you wanted to actually scare people off of the Bitcoin blockchain. So do it. It's not going to happen. Do it.
They could probably make easier money than that, exactly. So
can I throw something out about that though, Slave Blocker? I mean, I hope that you understand though. There's one other side to the fact that somebody actually believes that, which is the vast majority of individuals looking into things like crypto. They hear something like that and they have no way of knowing whether or not it's true, because there are people that appear to them to be technically savvy, and there are other people who appear to be technically savvy saying something else, and they don't have the capacity or maybe just the time or whatever to look into these things, but they've grown up trusting the dollar, even though it's been ripping them off since the day they were born. But they're more afraid of losing everything now than the inevitable loss of everything over the next 20 years, right? Like,
right.
And unless we address the fact that, like, if and you were bringing this up earlier, I forgot your name, Mr. Guest with the epic ZZ Top beard. Like the reality is crypto has never been able to address the concerns of the technically, let's say, like, less savvy or whatever, because that doesn't make them stupid, right? Like, just because they don't know about computers doesn't mean that they don't know about a lot of important things. And a circular economy requires somebody who has an intimate knowledge of everything, whether it be carpentry or plumbing or whatever. Like, I'm decently tech savvy. I could probably be more tech savvy, but at some point I'd rather know how to fix an excavator than fix a computer, because I can do something with it right now, like, and if we don't find a way to address the technical concerns of people at a level that they can understand, we are going to lock out a huge chunk of the savvy investor from getting involved.
Well, but I was just mentioning it because it's a true FUD. Like, if you break Satoshi's keys or you break any keys, it's like breaking your CDSA. So that's a huge tragedy. And that's like, how can he say that, It's like 256 bits of encryption. Okay, I don't know, raw Pollard method, you reduce it
if
to
that dude could do that, he
or
could just
whatever.
as easily, like, sink the entire banking system. If a dude could break that kind of encryption, he could easily do, like, all kinds of other more important things.
Yeah, exactly.
You could break certificates and shit like that with RSA and...
My understanding of the math with all that is it would be like trying to find a grain of sand in the bottom of the ocean with like 20 oceans, with as far as the math. Like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think the encryption is actually pretty strong. And,
I was asked to do a cryptocurrency chat at one of the businesses I was working at. I was an app developer there, but I was one of the few cryptocurrency guys, and I described it this way: if you understand how to shuffle a deck of cards, you have 52 factorial, right? Every time you play a game of poker, it's more or less guaranteed that you are never given the exact same arrangement of cards ever. 52 factorial is so big that you could have every human who's ever lived for the last million years, you could give them a deck of cards and have them shuffle from the day they're born to the day they die for the last million years, and you would still never have an overlap of the same order of cards in a deck. Okay, but Bitcoin specifically is built on either 128 or 192, something like that, 196, whatever. It has that many bits in it.
256.
Is it 256 these days?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
SHA
Well,
256.
regardless, like you take that 52 factorial, that would mean you would have to have the same number of 52 factorial universes worth of shuffling of all of the humans ever to even be able to hope to find one overlap of those cards of deck. Like the numbers are so big, it's very difficult to even talk about them, right? So, however, I did tell them,
Michael, you're muted.
That's all good. I'm listening.
However, they did ask, like, oh, what about quantum computing? Everybody says that, like, oh, quantum computing is going to break all this stuff. And my understanding of it is, yes, it might for a particular address. So that was my understanding of it is that one particular address may be vulnerable. You can throw all of the world's computing power at it and maybe break it. So that is a thing, but that's always been the case from the very beginning. As long as you know what key you're trying to find and break, that's a way easier target than just going out there and trying to hit as many of these wallets as you can. So I guess it's technically possible. I'm going to say it's technically possible, but that's also why I say do it. I still don't think it's going to happen, though.
Yeah, I think it's practically not possible. I mean, it's theoretically possible. Plus, if this quantum stuff broke encryption, I think they could just re-implement quantum. I think there's already quantum-resistant algorithms that have been developed. Pretty sure if you know. That's right. Yeah. Oh, back to the open hardware stuff. I just wanted to mention. I think if that like was mentioned with Russia developing chip plants like 200 something nanometers or whatever, like. There's like a YouTube video I saw. It was some guy in his basement built like 1,000. I don't know. He built like a chip that had, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 transistors and did the whole process himself with the, etching and everything. Like if those educational materials are out there, and they probably are, but if it just becomes more and more well known how to do that and more well documented, like think of a computer in the 80s like an Amiga, one of the first computers with like a nice graphical user interface, like. Maybe somebody can build that with homebrew and then just, scale it up slowly from there. But I think the educational knowledge part is key to if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that YouTube video at the very beginning. And yeah, it's great. No, that's okay. Yeah, but it's great to bring it up again. I would highly recommend if you're interested in hardware development at all. That's a great series, and it also shows you the difficulty of doing all this stuff. As I was saying beforehand. We were trying to figure out how do we deal with open source hardware. Well, making it yourself is really hard, but not impossible. As you're saying, like this kid, again, I think he's like 15, but he like cobbled together the like weirdest lithography thing in there, but he got it working. So very impressive. But yeah, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think we are like way off of like that they normal or like more like technically skilled people can like really come closer to what we are at the moment, because like the corporations like TSMC and so on, they have dozens of machines that are worth like tens of millions of dollars, and you can't like, yes, you can like redneck engineer your way like to some degree, but that's still like magnitudes lower than what we currently at like computing power and so on. But
the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So
it's true.
If there's ever going to be a total open hardware movement for like computers, like it has to start somewhere.
Yeah, true.
Well, and, one thing that I'd point out too is like, so in some situations, you're trying to figure out which one's the horse and which one's the cart, in the sense of what do we lead with and what follows, right? But in this case, I think it's all horses. And what I mean by such a weird analogy is getting economic freedom is a key ingredient in getting your own lithography machines, right? Because right now, a handful of government, corporate, Borg, fucking, lizard people organizations or whatever have a very strong stranglehold on the manufacture, distribution, and sale of these lithography machines and so on. And there was an incredibly aggressive economic maneuvering over the last 55 years to prevent other people from getting a place in that chain. And then we've now reached a point where, I mean, what is it, like Denmark or something makes the lithography machines, and then, Taiwan and Korea and the United States do the fabs, and, these three companies get control of the architecture, and these OEMs get discounts on the circuitry and the processors and all. But the thing is, all of that is tightly controlled with the mechanism of economic chains. Right. So in other words, building that stranglehold required a whole, I mean, for one, it took over 50 years. Remember, it was not that long ago that there were way more fabs and way more people producing lithography machines. Almost everybody in this conversation was alive at a point where there were dozens of them, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like leading edge ones. There are dozens of them now, but I'm saying leading edge nodes. There were dozens of them, right? Like, so the reality is you do the economic liberty thing in order to get access to the higher tiers of the technology. But then on the flip side, you want to draw in the creative and the productive individuals into your open source hardware, open source firmware, open source software, just generally. And you want to make it expensive to get those people back into the system. And then those people will then leave the system again with all that wealth and go right back to open source hardware, right? So in reality, it's kind of like a multi-front battle, and you have to look for the weaknesses in the control grid and chip away.
Well, I'd like to say one last thing toward that. And I had hoped to actually touch on this earlier. I had this point sitting for a little while, and we got off track. It's great. It's awesome conversation. I love it. But hopefully I've brought in a new perspective on things like privacy and Monero's place in what's going on. And I would like to leave you with one thing which ties into this, is a lot of the cryptocurrency ethos is this idea of trustless, right? And I think while that's a great technical foundation, don't trust anything. It's still about creating community, creating connections. I think the trustless side of things need to actually start with, hey, we need to trust someone to be able to build this hardware that we want. That they say that they're going to execute on a vision of an open hardware platform, and they're a big chip manufacturer. We're going to invest in them and trust them to shepherd that into the future, right? So trust on a technical level, yes. No trust on a technical level, yes, but trust among other people who are of that ethos, I think, is something that we all kind of inherently understand once you find out, like, oh, you're a Monero guy. Like, okay, we have something in common. We can trust each other. That's no longer trustless, and I think that that sense of community needs to be amplified up to then turn around and bring in these other companies that say, like, hey, we want you to help shepherd our community forward in the future, and we're going to trust you to follow through on these things. We're going to give you the reins of these things, and then also be a little trustless, as in we'll have some other plans on the side to be like, okay, if these guys betray us, we can always spin up this other thing. But I know that's kind of like both sides out of my mouth on that one, saying it should be trustless and also trust people. But the world's a complicated place, and there's no easy answers. So anyway, thanks for having me. I am gonna get moving. I have the rest of Porcfest to see, but.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Very interesting indeed. Jump on a Monero talk every Saturday if you can.
Okay. Sure. I'll probably see you guys around.
The Saturdays at 11 Eastern. Saturdays at 11 Eastern. We'll see you there.
And you can always find the posts on Monero.town, the Monerotopia community on there. They always post up every Saturday or Friday morning, like Friday or Saturday, that they're going to be doing it, and they give the links.
I make sure to hook them up.
Hey everybody, just wanted to say I have to head out as well. It was really awesome coming up on stage today, so really appreciate it. Kind of no longer going to be as much of a lurker, just being part of this community is great. Going to be part of the circular economy. I will continue to mine and run a full node, and looking forward to joining future guest segment or guests on stage, and see you guys in the Matrix channels.
Yeah, thanks again for the story, and love the username.
Thank you. Take care.
So
Bit was about to say something. I'm wondering if you want.
Yes, fellow lurker here as well. I just have something to say about the circular economy in Monero, and that one Monero is worth so much that when you want to buy something cheap, the numbers are so small that they become big. And I was just wondering what the solution for that would be. I know in Bitcoin you have Satoshis, where every Bitcoin is divided in 1 millionth of a piece, and they're called sats or Satoshis. I know that there's something familiar in Monero as well. I just wanted to ask a question if there's a solution for the small numbers.
Change your measuring stick. So instead of saying that this bottle of water costs 0.005 Monero, you change that to 5 Millinero, because that's what it is. So you just have to change your measuring stick. So 5 Millinero is what I use. I commonly use the Millinero, so I'll say like this thing is worth 17 Millinero.
You see, I mean, I agree with Shortwave Surfer, but one thing that I'd point out that Bit draws a very important point on is when you say sat to even people who are Bitcoin connoisseurs, a lot of them don't actually know what denomination, how many sats make a Bitcoin, but the word sat is so catchy, right? But when, even though I'm like a big fan of, using, powers of 10 metrics and prefixes and suffixes and stuff, because I love the efficiency, most people have no idea what you're talking about, but it's also not as catchy. So
That's true.
What we need is some kind of like branding for, the hundredths and maybe the 10,000ths and so on, as Monero's price lurks towards infinity. So if somebody could come up with like a really good word, and I think ideally it would be something that's like either piratey or bucks the system, or something that says like fuck the government, but with a very simple, short,
I think the solution here is actually to just introduce the US to the metric system, and then
never.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Canada pretends to be on the metric system and doesn't actually use it, bro. It's a dying system. It sucks.
I heard
Well,
from a
if
few
you
people.
divide the last time I said it wrongly, if you divide the 20 million, let's say, Monero by 8 billion people, you get like 0.0025 XMR. And to make that transaction, it is like 0.0000 something. So you can make 25 transactions, no problem. Piconero is just a great name. What else you want? Alaska, I know. Don't get you.
I like Piconero because it's like a good word, like so maybe saying picos or whatever makes a lot of sense. But honestly, I think our solution is probably somewhere in the Esperanto community. And even though my kids speak Esperanto and everybody who lives in my house speaks Esperanto, I'm a Monero guy and I don't speak Esperanto, but I bet you there's an Esperantist that has some catchy word, like maybe it's like a Malacha right? Or there's probably a word in Esperanto that would do right by
that
brand.
says the minimum denomination, and also says like grilling the government and stuff like that. Like I don't know. What was your suggestion?
How about, let's call them Stallmans.
Stallman.
Yeah. Like we'll call them Stallmans or something. Even though Richard Stallman doesn't like Monero because you can't pay taxes on it, which makes me want to. Like,
well, that reminds me of my memes. What happened to xmrmemes.com? That's a serious subject. We are here taking part in the history of changing the world. That's why we are here every Saturday. And I don't understand why people don't feel magnetically attracted immediately to this show. And
dude, I will tell you right now, Michael 10 has some fucking killer memes.
Where are my memes? I made a bounty of it, 0.1 XMR. My memes are great, and I don't want to do them again. And
there are memes on.
No one cares. This is incredible. No one cares.
There are memes in the Monero community on Monero Town. There's a whole Monero memes community.
Yes, but they come after. I know.
The OG speaks.
Just got to use it more.
Somebody should add, there's a Monero bounty for Noster Monero tipping. There should be a Monero bounty for Monero Lemmy tipping, which, you know, Monero.town's on Lemmy. And if there was a way to tip, that would be pretty awesome with Monero. I'm just saying. Yeah. But people should be posting on there. Reddit is a big community with Monero. And the more it moves to Lemmy, the better, because Reddit is very centralized. And, you know, Monero.town is Lemmy. So.
Reddit is very centralized, and since Reddit is a U.S. company, they have to bow to the whims of the U.S. government. So if the U.S. government ever says to Reddit, hey, take down this community, is Reddit going to say no? No, they're not. They're going to take it down.
Exactly. Yeah, having the Fediverse be, you know, Matrix, Lemmy, Mastodon, you know, have tens of thousands of people rather than Reddit is reducing a single point of failure for communications and synergy and network effect.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, like, I feel kind of guilty because I just straight up fucking hate social media, right? Like, I'm just not super into like diving into all of these different communities and like powering the content and all that, because it's just not really my thing. Honestly, Michael and Doug have done more to get me out into public than like 100,000% of the rest of my life combined. Because I'd never want to make time to like make a video or get on Twitter or whatever. But that said, if any of you are out there that like to engage in social media, or if any of you are into like UI design or optimization or whatever, this really is like it's a place that's ripe for productivity. And I know that there's lots of people that will pay top dollar voluntarily to see these Fediverse projects be comparable in their usability to all of these, like, register your account here and give us your data here and all of that other stuff. Especially if something is like one of these Fediverse projects, but you can't get it on like F-Droid, like just running a repository for getting it on F-Droid, right? Because I don't really use anything that you can't get on F-Droid, or I don't, you know, like, but there's so many things that all it would take is somebody just hosting it and having a repository for F-Droid, or like offering curated lists of stuff that has their own niche repositories, just like mirroring it on one specific repository that everybody using F-Droid could like default automatically have that repository when they download F-Droid or whatever. Because a lot of people who would be interested in using things like that, they're not going to go and add repositories to their F-Droid, right? It's these little tiny conveniences that are lacking that are preventing a lot of people from openly engaging. I mean, in my opinion, using Mastodon was objectively better than using other things, right? But the pain that you go through to begin using Mastodon was what kept a lot of people from using it in the first place, right? Even though it was definitely better.
I think like the whole internet culture and memes and everything is very important in a certain sense, but then again, like coming back a little bit to what our other guest said, it's very important like to build out those local communities in the real life, and as soon as you like got those, even like tiny ones, you tend to be spend way less time in the internet. And then I think the online community on the one side is very important, so we can all like connect up and build stuff and keep in touch and inform ourselves about stuff and share ideas to bring this forward. But yeah, I'm a bit torn on that one, like how important it really is, like or how much time we even should spend in those online things, and maybe work more in the real life, build stuff, because there's like there we really like see what problems need to be solved and where people like struggle like with using Monero, or like just where the real solutions are needed. Like, yeah.
On a slightly different topic, you've got to hack people's brains. I did something this week where I was looking at an article about EV adoption, and somebody was talking, somebody said something about, well, the price is too high. And my response was something to the effect of, well, you can get a regular gas-powered car for like 130 Monero, but an EV is going to set you back like 245 Monero. And that got a ton of likes. And it got some dislikes, but by doing that, I basically made people read the word Monero, because they're like, an EV costs 100 what? Or 150 what? Because there's no way that an EV costs $150. So they had to see the word Monero, and that registers in their brain on a subconscious level. And even if they dislike it and they're like, oh my God, I've been manipulated, I've been hacked, or whatever, my brain has been hacked, they downvote it, but they still had to read it. So their brain still processed that word.
Like, one of the things that makes me divided on coming onto these shows is that there is not a show about the dollar, like how great it is and all the properties it has and all that stuff. So I guess for me, the best form of money could also be used by tyrants. I don't know. Like, on one hand, the amount of fun that the community has is in some regards detrimental to the evolution and becoming boring and all that stuff.
I mean, you're gonna get like tyrants and all of kinds of like not very pleasant people to use like the good tech too, but I mean, you can't really like count on them to not build these systems or trying to exclude, because then you create a system which they strive to control. So I think that's just gonna be something we have to deal with, I guess.
A system that allows me to buy mangoes from the store privately is also going to let a 3-letter agency have a black budget, and there's no avoiding that.
Exactly. Yeah, guys, thank you very much, but I really want to get back into Porcfest, spread the Monero word.
All right,
I still have like a shit ton of those nice Monero brochures to hand out and onboard a few more vendors. So, any closing thoughts, maybe?
Yes, one real quick thing. Havino. Havino now has over 70 offers on average at all times. It is growing. So if you haven't used it yet, please do so. It's definitely growing, and there are people using it for real life trades.
Okay. Another small question about Havino from my side, because I couldn't follow in the last 2 weeks. The development, it progresses still further, I hope. like with a external ranking system like what local Monero had for the vendors? Any news on that?
Sorry, rephrase the question.
Like local Monero had a rating system for the vendors or the sellers.
Oh, reputation.
Yeah, reputation. Yeah, exactly.
So far, no. So far, it's just going to be the same thing as Biscad, where you get a verified account after 30 days, and you can say in like your offer details that I will only make I'll only accept a trade from people who have been verified and are older than say 30 days or something like that. But there is no like. There's been discussion on a reputation system, but a lot of people have pushed back against it. So not for now, apparently.
But what's the argument against it?
Just that it's too easily manipulated. So with local Monero, if somebody violated trust, local Monero could go in and ban their account. And yes, they could create a new account, but then that new account now has 0 ranking and whatever, so they wouldn't be trusted by very many of the community. With Havino, you can't really do that. You can't really go in and just ban somebody else's account on Havino.
Can I just point out that in a lot of situations, like what Havana was originally trying to do in the first place, the idea of, the atomic swaps and stuff like that, trust really isn't an issue. It's just trying to use it as an on and off ramp where it becomes an issue. And honestly, I remain convinced that trying to make Havino an on and off ramp, as people are doing, okay, fair enough. If that's what you need right now, fine. But the most appropriate on and off ramps are physical cash in person, or gold and silver, or Monazon, or all of these platforms that allow you. I mean, honestly, XMR Bazaar is pretty much like the ultimate on and off ramp, because in the end, you only want the dollar for real stuff. And so if you have access to real stuff using the crypto that you can atomic swap from one to the other, Havino has no need for a ranking system. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be one, because if people are going to continue to use it as an on and off ramp, okay, fine, I get it. But Havino's primary function from the beginning has been a decentralized exchange. And I think that that still needs to be the core of what it's actually trying to accomplish. And I think as far as the on and off ramps for crypto, making Havino both the exchange and the on and off ramp like your traditional centralized exchange, why are we even trying to have it be a centralized exchange substitution? I think just the decentralized exchange element is all it needs to figure out how to be, and it needs to be able to do it flawlessly. And then the on and off ramp solution needs to come from the real market. It needs to be either buying or selling actual stuff, or if you do want to get back into fiat, it has to be, you pay a guy to get you the stuff in Monero who wants Monero, or you just physical cash, physical gold, whatever it is that, you want to use for your on and off ramp is still the most trustless, quote unquote, way to do it. Right.
And that's how I do it most of the time. I very rarely exchange back to fiat from Monero, because that's, quite frankly, that's dangerous. When you take Monero and you get a fiat currency for it, that is probably one of the most dangerous exchanges of goods you can make. So you're right, buying a pizza for somebody or selling a car or whatever is very, very, very much a safer way to on and off ramp from Monero.
There's this anonymous guy in Alaska who advocates for free hardware. Who knows who it is, but who has literally never, ever gone from Monero to fiat unless it was to get more Monero, like ever. And the thing is like people who are trying to off ramp from Monero to fiat, okay, fine, you do you, boo. But it's like, why? Like, well, it is not hard to come by some fiat. Like, good luck getting your hands on Monero in a place like Alaska, or, where you really need it, like Cuba or whatever. Like, I mean, just stay out of the dying system in the first place. But the other thing is there are ways to do it that do not require you to be able to do it from 10,000 miles away or whatever. So But that's my 2 cents. And yeah, sure, still build the ranking system, but I think it's just still trying to do too much at once. Stick to the Unix principle. Do one thing, do it well, let somebody else come up with the other one, integrate the two systems.
Yeah, and Haveno's purpose is to be an exchange. It is to get from one currency to another in a decentralized way. That's its entire thing. It is trying to be like the Coinbase, except for in a decentralized manner that can't be shut down and can't have Monero delisted.
So I guess I just need to shill XMR Bazaar harder. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Get back to shilling, shill slave. We strongly support what you're doing from the comfort of our office chairs.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a little bit of stress, but it feels so good and it's a lot of fun, even though it takes a lot of energy and I repeat myself very often. Yeah, but yeah, I love doing that, even though the rain is a little bit annoying at times. But yeah,
And
still,
homie, if you want to come and visit Alaska, come on up. I'll feed you for all your hard work. I'll provide you
Sure,
with
I
a
think
bed
about it.
and I'll provide you with some food. But
Perfect.
you might not want to come up here in winter. Maybe you just stick to summer. Just saying.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, thanks guys, and one more show. Maybe just really consider coming to Porcfest one day. It's a blast. There's a little bit of drama, and not everybody agrees on everything, but that's just a libertarian thing, I guess. You can't be really like describe what that is, and I think you get a lot of like motivation and hope for the future if you come here. And yeah, keep spreading the good Monero word, I guess. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, man. Great show.
Thank you. Bless up.
So, Tux?
He's not here, but you gotta run the outro if you can, and then
okay.
when the outro is
Yep.
over, you click end stream.
Huh.
I have no idea what to tell you for running the outro though, because I've never done it.
Let me see.
Talk about baptism by fire.
We believe in you, man. Or you could just leave the microphone on the desk and see what random person this like wanders up and starts.
Well, you could always do this. If you can find the end stream button, we could always Okay, we could always say that this show happens every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Please join us. And you can end the stream.
Exactly. Okay. Then thanks
Brought to you by
everybody.
Cake Wallet. Purchase your Monero Noto immediately. You know, see you at Monerotopia.
Oh yeah, exactly. Consider coming to Monerotopia, November 14th to 17th, I think. And I think we need to get Vic also to Porcfest. Like having a talk between the Edge Wallet guy and Cake Wallet, that could be awesome. Maybe. Okay. See you guys. Thanks for chiming in.
God bless everybody.
Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next week.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Long live Monero and freedom.